Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a GeekVerse review, and kind of technically the closing. It's not a retrospective, but the closing of our John Wick retrospective. Next newscast will rank them or something like that. I am the loving husband, Travis Snell, and I'm joined by...
I'm the Marquise Kirklin Patzer.
I'm Mr. Nobody, Dylan Muss.
I am Klaus Taylor Pio.
I forgot about that until just now. Oh, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we talked about at the beginning here, we are reviewing John Wick Chapter 4. You can go back if you're like, what are your thoughts on the other three? Well, we watched a bunch. Well, we watched all of them this month. Some of us for the very first time. So you got Chapter 1. I guess it's just one. Chapter 2 and Parabellum all in there. And you got this. And I'm sure... And the video game. There you go. John Wick Hex, you got that going on. And I'm sure in a couple years when the Ballerina comes out, we'll be here because now we're in this, indebted in this franchise and whatnot. So, Phil, where can they find everything we do? Lots of stuff popping up on the feeds.
Lots of stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. And GeekVerse is our Facebook.
And everything you need to know is down below. The links, the videos, the audios. We love you, patrons. We love you. Yeah, I got to update all this stuff. But yeah, big shout out to the patrons. Head over there. Get ad-free exclusive early episodes. You get all, not all, I keep saying this. You got two Evil Dead, what is it? You got two Evil Dead retros up there. 4 episodes of X-Men Retrospective. Soon we'll be doing more of those. Soon the patrons, you'll get them like just, I think a couple days early. But soon we're going to be doing the Mario movie, the original 80s Mario Bro movie in honor of Mario. So that's going to be lots of fun. And yeah, check out the feed. We got a video game show, we got news shows, we got reviews, we got retrospectives, a bunch of stuff. And a big shout out to the patrons, as always, for supporting us. Thank you to the Patreon producers, Aaron Braden, Abram Darkness, Joshua Wright, and Jack Grant. And yeah, if you're listening to this, it's dropping on the Saturday, but we will be doing it after 9 at 6 p.m. on the 25th. But yeah, you can join Patreon, Phase 2 tiering up. We're going to be chatting, probably talking about things happening in the world. Marvel, Disney in big trouble right now with all this stuff going on. But the big thing is we're playing Mario Party, so it's going to be lots of fun. I'm excited to kick. Oh, I don't care. Much like Hux said in Rise of Skywalker, I don't need to win. I just need Matty Sags to lose, because he said he could kick my ass. So all I got to make sure I'm not there to win, Matty.
He said he plays every weekend, I think, or every month or something.
He's
like
on there.
He's on
the top leaderboards probably worldwide.
It's gonna be quite embarrassing when he finishes last, but look out for that. So yeah, and come watch. We'll probably do this again if it's successful. So. Oh boy, where do we go? I'm going to go to the man that's on my right. I don't know if I'm on your right or left, Dylan, but I'm going to go there. Dylan Muss, what did you think of John Wick Chapter 4? Your first John Wick in the theaters, longest one yet for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, John Wick Chapter 4. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will not have checked out that retrospective. So, just my brief thoughts is that I'm pretty like mid on those 3 movies, to be honest. I don't really do numbers anymore, but there's like a solid 7. I think all of them are kind of in that pocket for me. I like them enough. There's some good stuff in there, but not really favorites for me. And going into this, man, I've been like salty for weeks knowing the runtime of this. I'm like, there was the one John Wick, I think it was maybe 3 that was like over 2 hours, and that was a big sticking point on the retro for me. It was like, this is a half an hour too long. Like that, why are they doing this?
Join the Discord, because I remember when they announced it's nearly 3 hours to share it. Dylan's just like, what? Because of course the theater, that's the longest one that we're going to. That's on nearly 3 hours.
Yeah. So going in, I was like, man, I am not excited for 3 hours of this, but hopefully I'll have a good time in the theater watching it. But holy shit, this movie is fucking great. I loved it so much. It was such a surprise for me. Totally, I don't know. It's very much the same as the other ones, but I think in terms of just quality of writing and characters and stuff like that, it went above and beyond. It like for 3 hours, it flew by. Like it was a very well paced, and I did not think I'd be coming out of the theater with that thought. Of course, the action scenes are great. I think the cinematography is just even better here, and like the color palettes and stuff like that they chose are so intentional and just amazing. And all that stuff. I think for me, I said this in the Discord, but I think what really elevated this one for me above the other ones was the cast of side characters, whether they're villains, whether they're just other people in the story. It kind of goes back and forth, right? Everyone's hunting everyone in this movie. And I was just pretty much everyone across the board. I have like some memorable scenes from. not even that they're necessarily like these outstanding performances or anything, but they're all just very fun, and it made this movie just such a great time. So I can't wait to break it down, because now I can officially say that I love a John Wick movie. This is the one for me, so I'm very happy with this.
Well, Kirk and Patzer, did you love a John Wick? You have in the past, but have you again?
Yeah, I've been loving the John Wick so far, and like Dylan, I also just fucking love this movie so much. I had such a blast in the theater with this one. I didn't even I completely forgot about the runtime until I was like coming out of it, and I'm like, holy shit, it's 9:30 right now. Like I was in there for basically 3 hours. That is insane, because like Dylan said, it just completely flew by. I mean, like it was a pretty easy sell for me because I already just love those John Wick so much, but this one. Again, to Dylan's point, like I just feel like the quality of like everything was just like taken up a notch, like so much further than the other ones. And I already like the other one so much, but just like the quality of the cinematography, whether it was like certain shots or like the color palettes as well, it was just such a tasty movie. It was so like visually pleasing, and this is gonna be I can't wait to get this on like just streaming so I can just throw it on, and this is just gonna be such an easy movie to throw on. Like if I'm, I don't know, just doing chores or something, just throw on a John Wick in the background and just have some crazy action going on. This was like surprisingly emotional as well. I felt like multiple moments in this movie I was just like totally tearing up, which I was not expecting in a John Wick movie, but they totally delivered in that regard. And yeah, I feel like, I don't know, like I could have just gotten nonstop action, but they kind of surprised me with going a little bit further than that. So yeah, huge surprise. I was very upset though, because I'm like, I'm so sad that I'm coming into the John Wick series so late, because I wish I saw all the other ones in theaters, because this was just such a high octane experience that just totally blew me away. So I had so much fun with this movie. Fantastic.
Nice.
Mr. Field, Klaus.
Oh my goodness, I went in like giddy for this. I really did. I was so excited.
Yeah, he kept talking to strangers at the theater. I'm like, stop doing that. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
You like John Wick? 3 hours.
Have you seen Chapter 2?
Although we had to see it at 9 because we got kicked out of the 6 p.m. showing.
I like the runtime. The moment I heard that, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I can't wait. And I wrote down like something that I had to make sure I had to say. Okay, so this is a set of instructions, and you already kind of like highlighted this earlier, Travis. You need to go watch John Wick 1, 2, and 3. Then you need to go listen to our retrospectives for John Wick 1, 2, and 3. Then you go buy your ticket for John Wick 4, watch it, and then you tune in to this review.
What is this John Wick Hex erasure? This is a great game, Taylor. Why are you just sweeping it under the rug, huh?
Play the game after you've immersed yourself in the universe, for sure.
And then don't listen to Dylan's retrospective, Taylor.
It takes place before the first movie. You got to do it first.
Figure.
Okay, play the game definitely first. You need to watch this movie. In the end, this movie was absolutely fantastic. I was laughing throughout it, like, and not laughing at like significantly humorous moments, but
this fucking movie.
Yeah, it's just when a movie does these things where it's like you don't know what to do but just laugh, because it's like, oh, like holy shit. It's just incredible. Like you said, Kirklin, some things were very artistically done. There were some shots, and this isn't a spoiler, but where the camera would pan like a top-down view, and then that's where it's like, oh, okay, now we feel like we're in a video game. Certain things were going on. Like, it was just incredible what they did. I left that theater immediately thinking I need to U-turn it and get back in there, but I had to drive Travis home, so I couldn't do that. It was just a great it was a great experience. Holy shit.
I love that you had to write those instructions down.
Yeah, that's strange.
You couldn't remember that.
I would have forgotten.
And that's basically what I plugged at the beginning, is just check all the retros, then you just redid it.
Yeah.
Are you done there?
I have to say,
For
too,
now.
the score,
For now. Okay.
the score, holy shit! There is, just when I thought like I was out, I was never out. Fuck, they played a song and it would just pull me in deeper and deeper, and again, is a song name a spoiler for a movie?
Sure.
Well, if it's like Qui-Gon's Noble End, then sure. But
Yeah, that was specifically the track that they used in this movie.
I thought that was it. Yeah,
it sounded familiar. Please train the boy.
There's this song, and it's one of the songs like I started listening. One of my first, like when I was starting to like put music on DVDs, recreationally when I was younger.
On
the
DVDs,
legal
not
Taylor.
CDs.
Yeah.
Not CDs. Yeah, John Wick's,
Overwriting Lord of the Rings, like
John Wick's coming for you,
Yeah.
burning music to DVDs. Baba Yaga, look out.
There's a song called Justice Genesis, and it's got no vocals. It's just like solid, like whoop whoop whoop. It's so good, and it's funny because my mom always she would always love this song. So when she would borrow my car back when I was in high school, and I'd get up to go work early in the morning at 5 a.m., she didn't turn the radio down or the stereo. So at 5 a.m. it's like boom, doo, 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 doo. It's fuck. But I love the song. It's one of my oldest, most favorite songs. That song is in the movie, and they labeled it with like a John Wick remix title to it. It's fucking surreal, and I'll talk later in the spoilers of the scene they used it at, but oh man, I was just rocking in my seat, I was just ready to go. Oh.
And we had the recliner seat too, so he just kept putting his feet up and down. He wasn't actually rocking.
yeah.
He
You hear the buzzing.
just yeah.
Oh,
What a
Y'all
story.
good, Taylor.
that was
Yeah.
crazy.
What a story, Mark. Yeah. Well, thank you. While I'm talking, Taylor, anybody else, does someone want to find a background that's not the Mandalorian?
I
'Cause
just realized.
This
I'm
background's
looking.
really
I'm
nice.
looking.
I
Is
don't
that
know.
John
We
Wick
keep-
down there?
No, that's Din Djarin in there, but anyway, so yeah, I feel like I was much more. You go back to the retros, as many spoilers. I was much more like Dylan, where I think I could say I loved that first one, but then 2 and 3 were not the worst. But I just was slowly getting not. I would say a little disappointed with the series. I was just not enjoying it as I hoped. I was so much man, a Keanu Reeves just action flick with a bunch of cool actors. I'm looking really forward to this, and it just didn't really live up. The first one I had seen, and then for years I hadn't seen 2 and 3, so I was waiting, and so I was kind of Dylan's okay, 3 hours. The fourth one of my hype's kind of the lowest it's ever been. What we gonna do? And what I have to do, because I asked this on my Twitter, because I don't know many examples of this, but this is the definition of a certain type of film: a style of filmmaking with a large scale, sweeping scope, and spectacle. Usage is the term shifted over time, sometimes designating a film or genre, and other times simply synonymous with big budget filmmaking, like epics of classic literature series, wars, and things like that. For me, people gave me you go to my Twitter, gave me great examples of Kill Bill and the Mission Impossible movies and Bonds and The Rock and stuff like that. But I feel this was the first time, and like I said, most of the time epics are the definitions, war movies, historical movies, big Gladiator, Roman time, stuff like that. And they're usually multiple locations, grandiose sets, all these things. And there's some that people have listed, but this is the first time I was watching where I feel I'm watching an action epic. I'm watching this movie that just is larger than life, which a movie too, which I imagine the budget's not some 200, 300 million Endgame Star Wars level. I don't know what it is, but it feels that big. And everyone said I would just echo what everyone says, from the score, the cinematography, to the acting, as far as just there's very fun performances in here. I think they did a good job. Of my kind of critiques have been with them that I've liked some more than others, but I've never loved the villain or antagonist. I think they brought multiple actors in here to fill that role of, hey, these characters aren't so deeply written, but we got a really good actor in here and you're going to enjoy that. And I think it's a really $100 million budget. Yeah, $100 million budget. This looks better than some of those two. I just saw fucking Ant-Man, Quantum Wasp, whatever it was. Ant-Man 3.
The Quantum Wasp.
Ant-Man 3 we just saw a month ago. This movie looks fucking 10 billion times better than that. I get it because they're on a real stage and everything, but I'm just saying, kudos to the crew. I know there's one shot Taylor mentioned that we'll talk about in spoilers, was just that's the thing. They have these long, drawn out, huge action sequences, and you would think after these 3 movies, you'd be okay, they've done it all, and I'd be over it. But there was times where it just flew by. I didn't want to stop. I was just impressed. More so as than enjoying it. I was enjoying it, but I was impressed by what they were pulling off here. And I think the biggest thing, it's it has a somber tone to it, and that's what I like about it. I actually think this is what can help sometimes. I think the runtime really helps this movie, because sometimes in the other films, I think more so the first one, but 2 and 3, I was missing where, okay, other than I guess in 3, we'd go to the desert and we're 15 minutes there, but I was okay, I'm not really enjoying this. I feel sometimes we were missing, there's just always action. We'd get some quick character talking and stuff like that in some moments, but I feel we really just get to sit out sometimes, and we get certain scenes where it's hey, it's just these 2 characters talking for 5-10 minutes, and I'm enjoying this just as much as the action. There's a certain set piece, I'll say, in the middle of the film with certain characters that I really love. Again, that's not action. Of course, it transitions into action, but I think the runtime just gave it a chance to, okay, we're gonna hit you with a 25-minute just balls to wall action, and then you're gonna get time to just sit back and release and actually like the thing that's going on, whether the villains, whether it's actually with John Wick. Like I said, it kind of has a melancholy, just reflective sort of tone to it, which I like. It just feels, and it feels weird to say for a John Wick thing, and it's not meant as an insult, it just feels like it's more mature than the other films at times, and that's what I really like about it. So yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I was not expecting it to. As of right now, there's not been much competition, but this is easily my film of the year so far of what we've reviewed and talked about. So yeah, I love this. I probably will go see it again in theaters because Emily didn't get a chance to and she liked it, but even then, that's not like a, sometimes I have to go to movies because she hasn't. I'm like, okay, like I'll go, but like I'm not, like I'm excited to see it again, but this, like, absolutely, I'll be happy to see this again. And yeah, what a damn good time, and a great addition into this franchise, you know. So anything else non-spoilers?
I think like overall I don't have like any real issues with this movie, which is like, just for final thoughts, it like leaving it, I'm like, man, like what could they have done to make this movie even better? And I had a hard time kind of coming up with some things. There maybe is a certain things I kind of pull hairs at of just, I don't know, the clarification on maybe a certain character here and there, but like it's completely overshadowed by just the fantastic time I had in this one. So yeah, but like basically a near perfect movie for me, just to spoil my ranking there.
Yeah, and I think I'd agree with you. I feel like in the other John Wick movies I would have that, but then I'd also have some really bigger issues where this I didn't really. I feel like this was also a good balance of, for me, the other movies I've had a problem with the world, and this is still a big world, but I think they just used it better, I guess, this time, or maybe I'm just more familiar with it and I've just kind of sunken into, okay, this is the world. But it felt like there's always rules, but I don't know, it felt like it was more easier to grasp this go around for me. So well, it sounds like we all recommend it. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it, come back, check out our review after. We'll be reviewing it. So we're gonna take our first ad break and then we'll be right back. And we're back. So where to start with this gargantuan of a film? You know, there's lots of set pieces, lots of new characters, things like that. You know, Taylor has his hand up.
I would like to maybe start with the concierge. I think that's actually like a decent starting point.
Yeah, I was kind of like, so I'm of two minds of this, and my critique against this is just a pure real world like bummer situation where I think I maybe I'm misspeaking or I'm speaking for Dylan, but like I feel like you and me were close on chapter 3 where I really didn't like the ending as far as like the shooting of John Wick and like how Winston just kind of got away with stuff. Like I felt like we were losing stakes a lot in chapter 3 where everything was very hand wavy of like, oh, they got away with it. And that's why I liked right when this movie started, it was like, no, Winston's in trouble. We're blowing up the hotel and then the concierge. And that's where I liked it, him getting killed because of the stakes and it being like, man, okay, this feels like things are on the line, characters can go. But I was bummed because it's like his last role and he's only in the movie for 2 minutes. So I was so looking forward to, oh man, we're gonna get to see like him like the whole week. Of course I was not happy with the passing and like seeing one more role. I was like, at least we get to see him one more time in this, but that sucked. But for the film, I really liked it starting off that way because it was, like I said, right away made my head cocked of, okay, it felt like we're on a different playing field now than the other ones where all our main characters seem to pretty much scoop by. Like even last movie, Lawrence Fishburne, he was like putting a cheese grater and then he was like, oh, John Wick, like I'm fine. But this movie, it felt like, okay, anyone could go possibly. So
yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the stakes that established needed to happen there. And yeah, of course, I'm pretty much, I almost entirely agree with you there, where I've wanted a bit more screen time with him. But it made that scene when Winston is there by his memorial. I guess it's a graveyard, but like a weird looking graveyard, whatever it is, his memorial, I'll say. And I don't know, it made that scene like even more emotional, just thinking of the real world kind of comparison of what's going on there. But yeah, it did seem a bit soon. I guess my only reason from the reason I wanted him to be in the movie longer is just because he passed away and I wanted to see some more of him. But for the story, I think it totally worked. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of did what we needed to with that character with the continental New York not being a part of this movie. Maybe it makes less sense for him to be there. We did get a big action sequence with him in, I think it was 2 or 3. I forget which one it was.
3, yeah. He literally was him and John were like teaming together. So like he got that big moment at least. So
Yeah, and I mean, if any like there's so this movie is long, and it's like okay, well, I guess you could cut stuff to make room for other things, but I'm so happy we got all the time we did with the new characters in here as well that I think it was a good idea in that way too. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. This is where I was saying like I was getting emotional in the movie. I just knowing that Lance Reddick like passed away, and then yeah, just having him actually like die on screen there. It was I really liked the character, but also just like the real world thoughts came in. It was like, oh, that's super super sad. And then like the second scene, the memorial sequence with Winston and the one that Dylan was mentioning, that one was where I was like totally choking up because they just like build up to that point, and yeah, just really like well done scenes. And then I completely agree with you guys though on just the story reason to have those stakes, because it didn't really feel like we had moments like that at any other point in this franchise. So like Travis, your melancholy feeling overall for the feeling that you're mentioning, the non-spoiler, it was felt throughout, not just because of this. Obviously there's sad stuff with John Wick himself that happens later on, but yeah, it just had a total different tone, and I think having that early on really just set it that way. It's like, okay, this is a different John Wick adventure that we're used to seeing.
Well, I think that's why I like it, because I feel like the only time we got that was like the first 20 minutes of the first movie when his wife had passed away, he had the dog, and the dog gets killed. But then I feel like the second those guys invade his home, now we've flipped into, okay, it's John Wick action movie, and we've been doing that for 3 movies now. And this felt like it was back to that where, okay, because even when we lost William Dafoe in John Wick 1, it didn't feel like a big, like, he really lost him. Just like, oh, William Dafoe's gone. We don't want that. But he didn't have no memorial. Like, William Dafoe's just dead in his house somewhere, you know? Like, there wasn't a big...
there.
Yeah, he's still waiting for John to come pick him up. But like, it felt like it was like, okay, one of our allies got killed off. But that to me felt like it was aching back to that. And it's weird with that scene and the graveyard memorial. It feels like one of those movies that was made when the actor passed away, and they want to like tribute the actor, but it's not. It feels very similar to when Spider-Verse came out and Stanley only passed like a couple weeks or a month before, and it was all about like he was like eulogizing Peter Parker and stuff like that. So it's weird kind of art imitates life, imitates art sort of stuff.
I had that thought a couple moments when either it was just Winston like talking about him. It was just like, like was this done after he had already passed away? But I don't think it did, because it
No.
does fit with the
It was
actual
like a
character.
week, like a
It was,
week.
yeah, that movie had
Yeah.
already been shown to people after he had passed away, like in festivals
Yeah.
and stuff. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pretty much echo what you guys have said. I think it very much fits the story and just creates that level of consequence because, well, in the first film, like if they kept Willem Dafoe's character around as example, I feel like okay, maybe we would have had that attachment form throughout multiple movies. But again, that's not the case. So that obviously the weight feels different. Where we're at now, 4 movies in, and we're losing some characters that have been around since that first movie. Yeah, we have that connection. We have that development that we've seen with these characters. And again, it's super sad and unfortunate to know like real world context that Lance has passed away. I was definitely just surprised that he actually did die and they killed his character in the movie. But again, it was fitting when they showed that. I really wasn't sure now after his death, like, okay, who is safe now in this sense? And I think that's a good thing to have. We talk about like other things that will get around, like other people maybe dying. There was a lady at the end of our showing, Travis, behind us, and I think she said like, "Oh, the ending sucked" or whatever. And I think like in the context of that, I just think like no, just because like certain people may pass in this movie, I don't think that at all is necessarily bad. Like yes, like it's unfortunate to lose the concierge, but I think when you have a film and you can't predict who's vulnerable, like who's gonna die, who could be like killed off, I think that's great because it makes it less predictable. And I found that this movie from that moment forward was like, okay, I can't predict anything because yeah, they blew up. We were wondering why they the Continental's back in action, all this mumbo jumbo, like oh, it seems like there's no consequence, and that kind of like made things a little rocky in Parabellum. But now here we go. It's been whoever knows how long, you know, John Wick is healed up and everything. And the moment that he surfaces, it's like, no, okay, this Continental is being like destroyed. And this is like the punishment here, killing the concierge. So from that moment on, it's nice because, like I said, you have no level of prediction And I think that's what really really can reel you in as a moviegoer and a viewer. So
I love the word that you used, Travis, to describe the tone with somber. I think that is very fitting for this movie, and I think they really tried to match that up with the visuals and the color palette that we were talking about earlier. I feel like they really, for most of these set pieces and stuff, really tried to pick like two very distinct colors, and it would be like a dark, pretty much this whole movie takes place at like night or inside, and it's dark and stuff like that, except for like the desert sequence, and then obviously the sun rising at the end of it. And that desert sequence is like, a quick 5-minute thing anyway.
Oh yeah. It's like we're in the Mummy movie there for a second, like just. And I actually like the color scheme of like those two. It's the three guys on the white horse, and you got John Wick in black. But to me, it just looks like he's literal death just chasing them. And I just kind of laughed when the guy got shot in the desert, because that was some of my critiques with 3 of like, oh, he's just gonna come back and kill this guy. When it opened that way, I'm like, all right, what are we doing? Like, it's just exactly what we said, but luckily that wasn't much of a and weird recast that it wasn't they couldn't get that guy back like the original guy. He even mentions that it's like, oh, the elder before me and stuff. So like,
I didn't even notice that.
I didn't even notice either.
I had to recast that. But yeah, I mean, I guess with the marquee, like he's usually in the daytime and like brighter scenes with him. But when it's like John, it's almost always nighttime and stuff like that. So yeah, these color palettes I think are so striking. There's kind of that longer sequence where it almost has like the Blade Runner color palette where it's like orange and turquoise. I really
like green,
it's beautiful. Or when we're in Osaka and that's kind of like purple and blue and stuff like that. And I like that because this movie is like very colorful in those moments, but they just are very specific with the colors they're choosing. It feels like every lamp and every whatever is placed with like such precision. And that's why I feel like I really appreciate just the visuals of this thing in particular. And that perfectly matched that somber tone that you're talking about too, where it is colorful and bright, but it's like such a limited palette and it's nighttime and dark and like all the other points that aren't just explicitly these bright colors. So yeah, I feel like they really matched that with the cinematography too. It was pretty cool.
Well, because the first time I picked up on this, because like, yeah, you got the desert, that's just action scene. You have, which was maybe one of the loudest scenes I've heard in a while, is him punching that, like the bag. I'm not sure if your guys' theater, but our theater, the speakers were cracking every time he punched. I'm like, one more punch and the speakers are gonna blow. I'm telling you, like, we're gonna watch this movie with no sound very close here. But
Morpheus come in, just
you ready? Yeah, the king. It's like, who wants to fuck from the Matrix, everything like that. But then
go
you
check
had
out
to
that
me.
retro.
Yeah, go check out the Matrix Retro. But then you had, I don't want to butcher his name. It's Shimazu. Is that who was the guy who had the daughter? That guy. He was the nightclub, or he was the continental owner of the one.
Shimatsu or something like that.
Yeah, Shimatsu. But the actor Hiroki Sanda, that guy, you put him in anything, he makes everything better. Bullet Club, Wolverine. He was in Mortal Kombat, Endgame for a little bit. I swear, because this is the director that's doing Ghost of Tsushima, he better fucking be in Ghost of Tsushima. Because one, that guy's just great. But 2, there's literally a scene in this movie which we'll talk about, which just to me is like him previewing of like, hey, we're gonna do Ghost. Like, to me it was just like the preview, like he like sold Sony, he sent them this like samurai sword fight scene. There's even a moment where they just like shows the water and it's slow-mo and there's the color of certain shots. I'm like, oh, he just sent this reel to Sony like, hey, I should direct Ghost of Tsushima. And they're like, yes, you should, and hopefully it's these 2 actors in there. But to me, when John Wick and he met him on the top of the nightclub, and that's where like Dylan talking about the color palette, where he's up against that tree and it's that white and red, so it's very bright tree, but he's in the black. And I think they know what's gonna happen in this movie. And I feel like Keanu the whole time's playing John Wick in he's not like a very loud actor, but I mean like he looked like he even acting wise was trying to. It's almost like he knew there was like a ticking time bomb and he was gonna die. And that's what I love, that you had this very beautiful Japanese aesthetic with the colors and the flowers. Then you have just John Wick just with the black and just looking very, very solemn, not like mad, not like he wasn't like, I'm going to kill them all at that point. And that's where it's like, okay, that's where I kind of picked up on something's going to go down in this movie. But I think there were some great palette choices, but that to me is the first one of, okay, it's a different John Wick this go around, it's and they keep talking about that throughout, but I thought that was a good example. And that whole entire set piece was, I don't know what my favorite is in this movie. I need to watch this movie again because there's so many. But that opening, I was like, I don't know if they're gonna even top this, because just the look, the feel, the fighting. Oh.
There was so many like areas we would go or different set pieces, and I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And then we go to the next one, I'm like, oh my god, they're like topping it here. Like, and just getting back to like the visuals and the color palettes and everything, and like I feel like all of them were top notch, but there were so many that would go from like the more neon, like Blade Runner vibe that you guys were throwing out there, but then the more like warm tone. So it's like a completely different feel, but it still felt like it really popped when we got to those scenes. And it just, I feel like sometimes like great visuals can kind of go, not unnoticed, but just like you just, they like subconsciously like add so much to the scene. But in this one, it just like, it drew, like that was like the main thing that I was focusing on, was just like the symmetry of the shots. I feel like there's going to be so many scenes I could just nominate this for Golden Geeks. Like there are so many beautifully shot scenes. One quick one I'll shout out is actually when the Continental New York is being just demolished and they're in the Marquise's office, and he has those like blinds coming through, and the sun is coming in through the office in like the top right corner, and they just all have like the shadows, but also like the shadows of the blinds. You have like the hourglass in like the right corner, and it is like a bright-ish scene, but it was just, I like the feel of it was not like warm and comforting. Like it was this eerie, like
I feel like whenever it is daytime, there's like rain clouds in the sky and stuff like
yeah.
that. Right?
Yeah, it's not just like like sunshine and rainbows. But it's so hard to describe, because it's like the color that should be warm and comforting, but they were able to like do it in such a way that you don't feel that way. Like, I don't know, it's beyond my my brain waves to to calculate how that's done, but it blew my mind. And I think, yeah, like you just said, Dylan, like all of like those sunny moments, they didn't feel like that. So huge credit to just them for being able to, I don't know, just keep the overall somber vibe throughout the movie, even though it wasn't just like a black and gray movie. Like it was very visually popping.
And it's
Like,
3 hours long, and it's not a drag either, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's the fact that they managed that is also impressive.
And I'm not saying this as like a slight against it, because I absolutely love like the Batman. But you look at the Batman where that movie's entirely dark, and that's where it's like that has a somber feel, right? But that's like you always feel somber because it's like it's raining all the time and it's always dark, and Bruce is really depressed. So it's like, of course I'm supposed to feel a little mad. But like you said, they're in these beautiful locations, which I think they do a great job too. Like all the big set pieces have like a different type of color or different feel. Like you have the one in Japan, you have the nightclub one, which almost has a Blade Runner aesthetic too, where you have like these people again always dancing, not giving a fuck, the colors, the lights. You have the end, which is the more like Dylan's talking about, that like that turquoise, orangey yellow in the streets and the staircase and everything like that. And then that will wait till, but the final set piece of just being on like the sunset, again, a very Ghost of Tsushima type of thing. Like I think that's smart, that it's not always just okay, they pick one type of feel and go for it. It's always there, but there's variations of it, and there's just shot after shot so great. I remember when he goes to speak to Marshall, or who the fuck is Marshall? Winston. Anyways, so but there's a shot of, there's the grave out there. He walks up these stairs. When he walks up, it's just all snow, and there's like all these red trees, like boom, 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 boom. And just because recently we've been doing some shooting, I was like, oh my god, like look at like the way it's framed, and even the last shot of when it's like him and Donnie Yen, and they're pulled apart, and there's a church, and like it's one of those type of movies that I love, that it feels like multiple frames could be like, oh, this could be a poster, this could be a poster, but it's not just okay, it looks pretty and the rest of the stuff is fine, it's score, everything else. But yeah, this movie, I think it's the best looking one out of the four, and that's why I talk about being epic. It just has such a grandiose feel to it. It feels like almost like Dune, but like with Dune, it's like, oh, that's space and a new planet. Like this is just Earth, this is just Paris, you know. But they're doing such a good job making it feel so big. So
Absolutely. Maybe we should keep talking about the Osaka Continental. I
Yeah.
think that was one of my things too that I loved about this movie. Is the first movie set up so many interesting questions in terms of the world building element and what was going on in this strange world with this like table stuff and these golden coins. And then I was pretty disappointed by the way 2 and 3 expanded on some of those concepts. I feel like it answered some things too much and other things not enough, and just wasn't adding enough new things in there. But to me, this was like the perfect mix of, I feel like now I just have a better understanding of what's going on with some of the terms they use. Like they even just talk about like, oh, you don't have a marker on him or something like that at that point, referencing what was that with Halle Berry was John Wick's marker? I forget how that all connected, but something like that.
Lots of markers, lots of tickets.
Yeah, but I really loved seeing another Continental finally at long last, and obviously the Osaka one was beautiful with all of the lighting we talked about, all the different sets and whatnot. And then I mean, yeah, that action sequence. I don't know if we want to get into that now, but like just fucking amazing. And I think what makes the action sequences so much fun in this one is that not all of them are just John Wick versus 100 enemies, right? You have different like factions kind of going at it, and it makes all these battles really fluid. And even that one, John Wick doesn't even start fighting in that sequence until like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes into the
near the end of that battle.
Yeah, exactly. Like it takes a while before we actually get to see him fighting, and then even then there's more fighting that happens after he leaves the location too. So I think that was like a big strength to it, that they introduced side characters that we cared about almost immediately. And to your point, Travis, like just the acting quality, but I think it's something more than that too, because obviously there is some great actors in these previous movies, but the way they were written or whatever it was about them, they weren't as memorable, or in the retros we would just be like, oh, here's all the issues I have with these characters. Whereas, Kirklin, you're saying you don't have like anything wrong with this movie. When it comes to like all these characters across the board, I'm like, man, I'm so into all of them. They're all so fun, whether it's just the acting or they're doing cool stuff or like their outfits are awesome and whatnot. But yeah, that Osaka Continental in that battle was just so much fun when he turns the light off and then it like shit just goes down. Yeah. Oh, there's so many.
You get that green
to
going
it,
around.
Yeah,
that's the Continental. That's their MO.
The go-to, the lights out.
That's the go-to. They do the green.
Break glass, turn the lights off.
Yeah, you'd think everyone would learn and get like the night vision goggles. Like
they should. Yeah, those masks look really dark too. So probably, and I'm sure they could see through the eye holes.
Those outfits were sick.
That was so cool. And like to your point, that's where there was some point where like, man, John Wick's not even in here, but I wasn't even like missing him. Not again as a shot against the character, but it's just like they're carrying them, and I don't know what they're more gonna do with this world. And I think we'll see that with the ballerina. I know they're making that Continental show, but they made so many factions, different characters. Like, oh, I could see a movie called The Continental or something with all these characters without John Wick and still be invested. And yeah, I think that's just a tribute to the actors, and I think even then, just like with I can't remember the guy's name, but with the actor Sonata, it's just like I loved the setup of his concierge giving all this info, like, oh, you got to have lunch with your daughter or dinner with your daughter later on. She's very worried for you. And then later on, she calls him dad, and then they have this back and forth. It's like, tell my daughter I'll be there for dinner. So just in like a 2-minute scene, you get attached to both these characters because the daughter was fucking awesome, and I better be seeing this character again in the future. But yeah, it was a really good setup to this world that we weren't in for really too long. For a movie that's almost 3 hours, we're there for probably 25-ish, maybe 30 minutes. So maybe there's like a quarter of it, but still, it's not a big plot point other than we're going to try and get John Wick.
Yeah, because we're 4 movies into this John Wick universe, and like to definitely set up things. But until I got to see this Osaka Continental, it's like, okay, I fully have trust that they could do content in this universe, which is seeing this Continental. I mean, the Japanese aesthetic was totally up my alley, so I fucking loved it. But still, just like the possibilities of Continental in India or something, like see what that aesthetic would be like. I would love to see that. So yeah, and with the John Wick conclusion in that fight sequence, because he only was really in the desert fight scene. I like kind of air quotes that because he's just kind of like Grand Theft Horse
executioner.
Yeah. He's not really doing much. And all of the build up to the I guess the Marquise's men. I guess that's just what I would label that faction. They had like the little insignia. Yeah. I don't know if they had like a different term to them, but like the ramp up to that combat sequence, it was going on, and like all of the awesome just action scenes were going on, and then like a thought bubble kind of popped in my mind. I'm like, hey, where's John Wick? Like, when's he gonna start popping off? And that's exactly when he popped off, and I think it was just like perfectly paced, like the build up to that action sequence. And yeah, I loved everything about that Osaka sequence. I was like grinning ear to ear. Again, visuals were off the charts, but just like going to the specifics of like that light like I don't even know what you describe it. Like it wasn't exactly mirrors, but it was like a museum with like light panels and everything.
yeah.
And the nunchucks every time that he would like
Oh my
pop off
God.
and then
Like
like
a
flip,
training room.
he'd like flip them around his neck or whatever, and then
Yeah,
like just like
reload.
pop off with his gun and then like grab them again. Oh my gosh, I was eating this up, and there were so many moments throughout this movie where like the action was going on, and I was just like, oh my god, like, but like everyone in my theater was kind of doing that. Like it was just such a joyous I don't know event, and that's what made me think. I'm like, man, I'm so sad I'm coming into this series like so late for the movie going experience, because my theater was like, it wasn't completely packed, but like it was pretty full, and I feel like everyone was really into it. Whether they're laughing out loud or just like wincing at some of the combat moments, but yeah, it was a great time.
Well, and even when you're talking about the five, I just loved even the build up to when the lights did go out, and you have all these guys like they're getting their swords, they're getting the ninja stars, you're seeing the bows and everything come up, and I love there's this great panorama shot of from behind the guys with the swords, and like each time they pass the guy takes out the sword, and they like go in the last guy, and he like slowly takes it out. It was just like this great build up again of stuff that you might be like that definitely adds to the runtime. But it just builds the atmosphere the whole time, because you always go, okay, why are these guys going to use swords and bow and arrows against these guys with guns and automatic weapons? But they make it believable, right? They make it seem like, oh, this could be just as dangerous because they're trained to do it this way. So,
and like I know we were ramping up for combat, but at that point I still was like, this could de-escalate with like one person kind of entering the situation. I know like the Continental Grounds is kind of sacred, like we don't like to have combat here, so like there was a thought that it could go kind of either way, at least for myself there. But I was a fool to think that they spent too much time just seeing them armor up and get ready for the combat.
what about you, Taylor? What do you think about the sock etching? You've been quiet.
I feel like, man, there's so much beautiful aesthetic and atmosphere going on. I wish that we had designs like that and just like scapes like that like over here. Like it's so beautiful. Oh, it's so beautiful. I'd love to just kind of be immersed in that. I'll have to go to Japan then, in short. I'll have to go to the Osaka Continental specifically. Well, actually, it's been destroyed, so I can't. But I just think that the way they set everything up there, and just how many Continentals are just going down because they're helping John at this rate, it's nuts. And holy shit. Everything about it was fantastic. When you have them gearing up, like you guys already said, and they're getting all their gear on and just going to town, and we just go through so many different amazing battle sequences in here. Yeah, when the daughter starts popping off was just fantastic. I love that. Oh my goodness. And then when John Wick is going through and fighting these guards, which we're familiar with because they were fighting in the Continental in the Parabellum previous one, just how many shots they can take. Like right out of the gate too, when John Wick is like fighting one hand to hand, and he like lifts his knee up, and then the daughter shoots that arrow, and it goes into his knee into the wall, and he's stuck, and he's like, he can't move. Like, oh, that's brutal. And then there's another scene where John Wick is fighting this guy hand to hand, and his buddy is behind trying to like get up. John Wick shoots him twice, he falls over, and then he gets back up, and John Wick shoots him twice, and he falls over again. He fell like 7 times, and he was trying to get up this last time, and he's staggering, and he's like all like drowsy and stuff, and then yeah, John Wick just like pops him off there. It's fantastic. Of course, this is when, sorry, you're gonna say something?
Oh no, I thought that was a better timing, because I remember last time in 3 they had those guys that had that really big armor set, and I felt like that went on for too long, and I felt like this went the right amount. And I also think the combination of the nunchucks and the swords helped with that, where last time it was just, and I like John with the concierge teaming up together, but it was just them with the guns first, someone with shotguns, right? Let's get us the shotguns. But I think the variations of characters and weapons helped in this fight, because I was a little worried when I saw these guys with big armor. I'm like, well, that was like the finale of 3, right? Was these guys that can take a bunch of shots. But I think and then when they transition later onto that room that's like lit and has the glass, then later on we get Donnie Yen. So I think it was just paced better. But at first I was worried. It's like, oh no, it's like in a video game when you get another like enemy type that's like just recolor, but they're the same type, like, oh, another shield guy, here we go. But I think they almost did better this go around with it. So
yeah, you said it there, Donnie Yen, and this is something I told you when we were driving back yesterday. I'm just convinced that he just wants to be blind, because again, he's blind in this movie.
Yeah,
and
he's gonna be Daredevil soon.
Rogue One, right?
Daredevil.
Yeah,
He's blind in Rogue One. Yeah. So
I said to Taylor when I saw him, I had to think, I'm like, is Donnie Yen actually blind? I'm like, no, he's not. But like for a second, I was like, Rogue One, and I feel like I guess I saw him in one movie. I've seen him in a couple, but still, it's like, is he? It just felt like such a strange like coincidence for because I feel like with Rogue One and this movie, these would be his biggest North American roles because he's a big star where he's from. But I feel like for North America, his two biggest roles are where he's playing a blind guy, and the man is not blind. You know, he's just great at kung fu and choreographed fights and stuff like that. So
The way they portray his character, like you think he's leaving like a mine on the wall or something like that. No, it's just
Yeah.
like like a simple alarm you get at home hardware.
I was
or
surprised he
something
didn't go
like
pick
that.
those up. I thought he was gonna go scoop
He's
them
probably
up
got a
on his
whole
way
bunch
out.
of them in his pocket.
I don't know,
Unlimited
maybe fit.
supply from the marquee.
Hermione's bag. He's
Marquise, the Marquise,
Marquise.
something else, the Marquis and
Marquise.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as soon as he is introduced, like you barely even I barely recognized him at first because he was just all like haggard and ragged kind
Yeah,
of style.
they gave him a
and all
nice
that,
wig
so-
there.
Yeah, yeah. So when he came in later on, he's all like clean cut and ready to go. I love how he's eating soup in the alleyway, and the one Marquise head honcho's like, you know, do what you're being paid for and all that kind of stuff. And he goes in and he's just going to town. I love it. And I like how there's this level of just regret. Like he doesn't want to do this. This isn't his fight. And I like seeing these different assassins with these different motives and how he just changes from you really change with him, like where you don't know how you feel about him. Maybe you hate him, like, oh, he doesn't want to do this, but you still don't like him. He ends up killing I can't remember his name.
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so ends up killing him.
It's
Yeah.
S-H
Shimatsu.
Shimazu. Okay, there you go.
Ends up killing him, and then
Scorpion.
and at that point, you're like, oh yeah, really, yeah, Scorpion. You don't like he went through and did that, but even then, like, oh, you know, talking to the daughter, like don't live, you know, live, like so. Don't live.
Don't live.
There's a comma. There's a comma in between there.
But then my favorite line, it was very Kill Bill-ish and we'll talk about in like the end credits and stuff like that. But I love the "I'll be waiting for you" because it's very much like when the bride kills. Oh gosh, what's her name with the daughter? She kills her, and she pretty much just tells her like, "Hey, when you grow up, you're gonna be looking for me, and I'll be waiting." And I fucking love when movies do that. And again, because like you said, Taylor, I feel like it puts him in a good position because you understand why he's doing it. He's trying to save his daughter, but now he's killing his friend, leaving his friend's daughter alone and stuff like that. Then at the end of the movie, he does some other changes as well. I think they did a perfect gray area character. If you understand the motivations, but you hate him for doing these things, you want him to get killed, but he's so fun and charismatic that you want to be on the team, but at the same time, you almost want the daughter to kill him. So I love, like, again, that stuff I feel like the other movies were missing, just that line of "I'll be waiting for you," because it had a weight to it of like, he knows he like at some point he has to meet his maker and she's gonna go hopefully train, and so that was, and again, just that sequence, I'd say the Ghost of Tsushima like sequence right there was fantastic. And he even was gonna let him go, right? Because he said like he just said he lost the fight, he wasn't gonna kill him, but then
He said,
Just
"Yeah,
seeing
go take your daughter out of here."
Yeah,
he was
but-
walking away, but pride, honor,
Pride,
just came in. I respect that. Went down like a true samurai.
Yeah.
In closing, though, just the Donnie Yen thing when he he had some amazing quick one-liners in this movie that were fantastic. We'll talk more about them later, but the one that I really
Fuck you.
liked in the story, yeah, that was so good. Holy shit! But the one that I really did enjoy was when John Wick's down. He's not saying anything. He's like, "Are you dead, John?" He's just like moving forward. That got me.
well, let's take our second ad break and then we'll keep talking about. We haven't even got out of soccer yet, so we'll keep going right after this. And we're back. You guys want to speak on the what was
I would love
his
to
name?
speak.
Kane.
Kane.
Yeah.
Yeah, this character, I like everything we're gonna be talking about today. I fucking loved him so much. We've had throughout the other John Wicks just a character like this where it's kind of like the opposition to John Wick, who kind of gets, I don't know, hired by the main antagonist. We had Common, the sushi chef from the last movie, and this one was just like perfectly done where like his motivation, I was like, I feel like I should be rooting for this guy, like the dynamic that he has with his daughter. It's not so much that like he like the Marquise will, I don't know, keep his daughter safe or something, or maybe allow him to see the daughter. It's like he's basically just threatening that he will kill the daughter that's like still out there in the world if Donnie Yen doesn't save, or Kane is his
Kane,
actual
yeah.
name, which is great because he has a cane
Yeah.
throughout the movie. But
I didn't even think about that.
so I love the motivation there. It made it not just like a black and white, like, okay, I'm rooting for John, this guy has to die, like the other movies kind of had with the sushi chef, with Common. I just really wasn't like attached to them at all. Whereas this guy, like, I was really rooting for him. There was moments when I thought we would have like that obvious hero turn and he just like saves the day, but it ended up, it came, but like not as cleanly as maybe I was expecting, where like he just goes against the Marquise. Like he really was on Team Marquise for like basically the entire movie, except for helping John in the stairs, right?
Yeah, but even then, like that's because at first when he helped him stairs, I was like, oh, are they just going to completely turn him and he's just going to go up there and kill everybody? But they really didn't. He helped him up there because I feel like if he doesn't get John up there, there's a chance Marquise doesn't let him have his daughter back. He's like, oh, you didn't kill John Wick, right? So I feel like it was a thing of, to the very end, like, he kept his word and stuff. I don't think once he said he was free and the daughter was free, he was probably going to help the Marquise or anybody out after that point. But really, like, he stuck to his guns and he stayed in that antagonistic role. It was just the respect they had for each other and the daughter, of course, that you didn't want it to go down that way. But
like it just seemed like I knew that hero turn was coming, but it got so late in the movie where I'm like, maybe it's not coming, and like it's actually just he's gonna be a man of his word, which he was. They kind of had a loophole to win that ordeal, but it worked out, and I'm happy it did. I was satisfied with it. The whole dynamic with the Shimatsu character, just I loved it because it was reminiscent of the Ghost of Tsushima situation. So all of that was fantastic. What you guys already said, the line that he said to like the daughter there, like, I'll be waiting for you, like that's gonna come. I've definitely experienced that in Kill Bill. I feel like other movies and probably video games too have just done that.
They're saying you'd experience. I'm like, who did you kill that you told you were waiting? I'll be waiting for you.
Someone killed my father, and I've been training ever since then to track him down.
Then I'm gonna kill them, and their son's gonna come after me, and it's a full circle.
Full circle moment. I was like a little bit upset that like the daughter didn't come back at any point in the movie. It very much felt like the setup was there. Did you guys stick around for the end credits? Because apparently there was an end credit. Okay, I did not at all. Dylan sounds like maybe
we could talk about that now because like we're talking about Kane. I'm sure he'll come up again. But the end credits is obviously
Willem
like
Dafoe.
as Goblin. He's imagine you could believe that in this world. But so the end credits is Kane.
You're out, Wick.
pumpkin bombs and everything.
It's Kane's daughter. She's in the same spot she was in the last movie, playing her violin. He's coming up. He's very nicely dressed. He has flowers. He's going out to walk to her, and he's walking. And then they like, turn the camera around, and then obviously because he's blind, he can't see. They show someone out walking up to him, and it's the daughter of Shimatsu. And then and then she has a switchblade. She takes a knife out, and then it cuts to black. So you don't know what happens because you could assume that she kills him. At the same time, this guy can hear, he has great hearing and stuff like that. So that was it, kind of like leaving it on a cliffhanger, which, man, I know it would be lower budget, probably wouldn't do the greatest, but make it lower budget. Just make a movie of her hunting him down. I'd be there for that. But that was the end credit of leaving it ambiguous, but it did show she's there. And I don't know if we're ever going to get that story. If we don't, in my head canon, I'm going to say she killed him because I think that's a great, because I said Taylor when we got the end credit, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be that scene, because I think that's honestly a great end for that character. Is he's gonna go finally see his daughter and he gets killed. Why? Because you killed this other girl's fault. Like, I think it's a good bittersweet ending of you're almost there, but you killed your friend, so sorry, you don't get to have your daughter. It's like again full circle moment of it all comes around, but the daughter's safe at the end. So
yeah, and like that's what I was kind of wanting to see. I just bounced. I didn't stick around for possible end credit scene. So knowing that was in there, it's like, okay, I'm satisfied. I actually got my round out.
Yeah, it's funny when she left, and I didn't obviously think about it till the movie was over. I was like, oh yeah, that was like the end of that character. She disappeared, but that does make a lot of sense, kind of setting up something there. And I'd be down to see that too. I mean, even like this is different than I feel like a lot of other John Wick movies. Like pretty much everyone dies in the movies except for Wick. Winston the concierge and like I guess Lawrence Fishburne, like everyone else that was like new in the movie gets killed off in some way. But in this one, like a ton of characters are still bumping, just obviously not the namesake of the movie. So they're definitely setting up more to do in this world. But yeah, I thought she was great because right before the movie started, Muds was like, "Oh, this singer that I like is in this movie. It's her first movie that she's ever acted in." And I'm like, "All right, I'm excited, curious to see what that is." But if it's her first acting performance, not expecting anything too outstanding. And I was thinking it'd be like a smaller role. Like I know there was, I think it was maybe in John Wick 2, and we're on one of those set pieces, and there is like some big like vocal performance happening, right? And I was like, oh, maybe it's something like that. Like that's where the actress is. But like no, she actually had a sizable role, at least for like the first third of the movie, I guess. No Osaka Continental, that whole sequence, first act, whatever you want to call it there. Yeah, I thought she was great. She was good at the emotional stuff. I mean, just once again, going back to the action of it, she was fantastic. Like when she's fighting that big dude on the staircase and just like like climbing a mountain by like stabbing him over and over again. That was amazing. I love that she was so mad at John, like immediately on the rooftop. But then, the one guy comes out and says like, well, there's some action going on here. And then they immediately just like team up back to back kind of thing. And they're fighting together, as Taylor said, with the bow and arrow and all that stuff. And I also loved her suit. It was kind of like this black leather throw thing, but it had like a layering going on to it. So she looked really cool as well. So that was a very successful character. And yeah, definitely one I'd be happy to see in a future project.
Man, she had like the heavy longbow from Ghost of Tsushima too. Like those arrows were hitting so much harder than everyone else's. Like it would just, especially like the effect that they had on like those first few arrows. I mean, Taylor, you already mentioned like when she pinned that guy's leg like to the wall.
That was so cool.
But it's just like, and it just like it sounded like a fucking rocket. Like oh my god, it felt so weighty. But yeah, I agree, Dylan. I thought like the patterns that she kind of had on like her suit, like I would have just expected like an all black, I don't know, like latex suit or something, like night mode for a character like that, but like it had like very intricate details to it, and just I don't know, made it a little bit more memorable.
Yeah.
And they had that great scene too on the subway again with the lighting when they'd go underground, and because it's like red and pink lights, and then when they're going around, it's just that, and it kind of matches when she gets there, which I thought I hand waved it, but it was very to me coincidental that they're looking for John Wick, and all they had to do is probably just fucking follow this girl because she happens to get just on the same track with the same subway with John Wick at the exact same time. It's like, all right, the movie's great, so I'm gonna hand wave it, but like at the time I was like, really, Donnie Yen should have just kept following her and you would have had John Wick right there. But I love that too. Same thing of just that they didn't really have to say anything about the dad being dead. Obviously, just her being alone signified, okay, he didn't make it. But the lights kind of doing that again, that when that reveal happens, it goes down, and it's dark, but you have these lights on him. And yeah, the whole thing was a great sequence. And also, was it in the saga we got the bell ring thing that Kane used, right, to get the enemies?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, that was another thing. I believed it enough because the world we've set in, but you got to go, okay, how do you have this blind assassin take down John Wick, who's just Baba Yaga, the great assassin, stuff like that? And you definitely still have to do a massive suspension of disbelief. But I like that they still tried to ground it as much as possible. Okay, he has 15, like not 15, he has like 5 or 6 guys coming after him. What's he going to do? And he just puts
Did you see John Wick get shot off the building in Chapter 3? This is not a believable world anymore.
That's what I mean.
Totally okay with it,
that's
right?
what I mean. Yeah, that's why I can look past and stuff like that. This is John Wick 1, I wouldn't know, but now where we are. But I still like that they were trying to ground it. They didn't go completely bananas. They kind of go, okay, how's he going to fight these 5 guys that are just running after him? Well, he sets up these little traps that anytime they run by, they ding, and it'd be great that he'd be fighting, and then there'd be a ding behind him. And then like I thought that was really well done. Of like they were definitely over the top with it, but they still kept in reality. And I just to me, he's like some sort of character you'd be in like a Mortal Kombat fighter that's just known for their speed, like just his stabs, like the quick, like how fast he was. And I like that kind of like that's how Donnie Yen fights in all his movies. But I feel like it kind of matches this character because it is like if you are blind and you get the enemy, you have to strike fast because you could lose them again, right? So I like that the second he has them, he's just shredding away as fast. Like the swipes he was taking at John Wick at one moment in like the nunchuck fight scene near the end, like or not in the beginning, it was just I really like the style they gave that character and how they did try to ground it a little bit, but I was down just for this cool character,
Well, I think something that adds to it, and this is me just assuming, and it's because the movie is so well done, but like both those guys do their own stunts for like, or not
Mhm.
all of them, not 100% of the stunts, but most of them I would assume, or a good amount of them. And I feel like that's such a rare thing where like I don't know how many like big action fight scenes do we get in movies these days where like the two like the actual lead actor and the lead villain are probably actually doing a lot of these stunts with each
Yeah.
other, and it makes it feel more believable. And I'm sure that gives them a lot more freedom in terms of how they can position the camera and whatnot, right? Because they don't have to like hide the face and do all this other stuff that other movies would have to do. So once again, I'm kind of assuming there because it does look so good, but it seems like that must be a nice luxury as a director if you can do like, oh, we can actually do a lot of these fight scenes with the actual actors because they're trained up and going hard to make sure this is a believable performance in that way. I
Yeah.
think the last thing that we haven't really talked about from the Continental is another character that was my personal favorite in the movie. Was Nobody, or I don't know what his name is in like
I think it's
IMDb
just
or
Tracker or something.
yeah,
or-
which I kind of prefer Nobody because that's what he was saying whenever
Yeah.
anyone asked who he was. And then the Marquise, labeled him Mr. Nobody, which I like that little additive on there. But man, I loved this character so much. Just the concept of, someone who's a bounty hunter in this world who, everyone when they see this hit on John Wick for Excommunicado, maybe they want to try and get that number. But the fact that he is so good and he's just following Wick and just waiting for that number to go up, and he has the kill shot many times, but he doesn't take it. He just takes out his phone instead to see what the current bounty is on this. And he's like, you know what? I'll waive it. I'll come back and fight you later. Like that dynamic, that little cat and mouse game was so much fun. And then there's obviously a lot more layers to it where, I mean, one, I just loved his fighting style because that was a bit more mercenary like. Even like the outfit he was wearing was just like a lot more casual, and like I love his backpack where he just had all his shit in there.
Oh yeah.
And he like pulled it around at
That
one point
vest,
to like
yeah.
Yeah, he became a
pulled it over the
transformer.
front.
His backpack
Oh, yeah.
do all these
Amazing.
things. Yeah.
I love that. His weapon too, like that bolt action rifle
Oh,
was
man.
like
Yeah.
just amazing. I love it the way they did it so many times where they would frame a shot where it's like, hey, here's the guy that's about to get shot, and then like the camera would pan in to like him with like the gun hanging out over his arm. They did that shot so many times, and I really appreciated that. So he was just so cool. And then obviously he had the dog with him too, and those two were just like a dynamic duo. He would send him off, and he would take out an enemy. And obviously the dog had like a little narrative with that one particular guard that we saw multiple
Yeah.
times. But man, I'll let you guys talk about Nobody. But man, that was my highlight character. And for me, that was the one where I was like, I want a spin-off movie, TV, whatever it is. I want to see this guy just go doing some stuff because I don't know the actor's name. I've never seen him before, but he was fantastic. I'd love to see him and his dog just going around in this world and collecting bounties.
I feel like John Wick must have saw this dog and be like, man, if I had more time, this is what I could have done with my dog. You know,
Mhm.
we could have been doing this and stuff. But no, I'm with you where I think to me the gimmick of him wanting to go the bounty up was just fantastic. The second he has this book, he has like John Wick's picture, money signs, and like the house next to it. It's like, okay. And then when it's like he's saving him for this fact, because again, for a second, I thought we had another bad person that couldn't shoot. When we first get to introduce him, like, hey, this guy's this hitman and he can't hit Kane, he can't hit John Wick. I'm like, I hate when they do this in movies, like top, like whatever. I hate to say it, they do this in Mando, where it's like the biggest assassin in the world, and then when they meet them, it's like they miss every shot they take and stuff, and they can't do shit. But in this one, it's like, okay, there's a reason for it, and I love that dynamic of waiting. I like the back and forth he had with Marquise, and I like that it was not one-sided, because right when you thought he was so cool, calm, and collected, he had all the answers. They just like that knife to the hand scene was great.
Oh yeah.
But that's what I like, because at that point, I feel like Bill Skarsgård had played the character kind of, I won't say wimpy, but not dangerous at all. But in a second, it flipped. But I think that was good for the Nobody story as well, because up until that point, he felt like hot shit. And then he got brought down real fast of like, yeah, you might have been maneuvering things around, but don't kid yourself. You could be taken out any second. So I think that made the character more calculated in the second half. And yeah, I loved everything. I think the dog, too, is just like a great aspect of dogs, of course, are a recurring theme in this. But I love that Mr. Nobody's turn is kind of like, John Wick saves the dog, and that makes it like it's the money's not worth it. John saved the dog, so I'm gonna help him out. So again, he's not in the movie for like he's in the movie actually quite well, I guess, but like he's not the main character, maybe not even the second main character, but he has a great story and a great like mini arc there. That's all I could want. So yeah, I was a fan of Nobody as well.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic. I thought just like the subtle acting of like kind of near the end when he's just like in awe of like what was going on. He was sharing that beer with his dog.
That was fun. I love that.
And just like when the twist happened and he's like, oh my god, like that was amazing. He's just kind of just like cracking up and like just seems so genuine. He sold that moment so well, but also in the him being calm and cool, and also just like the badass tracker that he was. The moment that you guys already talked about with the knife in the hand, he just really sold that like fear that he was feeling in that moment because he totally caught him off guard. Why did he have to pull his hand out? Like,
Well,
why?
he could make a choice. Like, he could choose to like care for himself, or like dedicate himself to himself, or dedicate himself to like others in the cause.
And what's the
I
cause
thought they were
here?
taking
The
a
Marquis
finger
way?
there. I guess I thought they were taking a finger there, and I thought, oh, that's gonna be their way of saying like, okay, they're gonna take the ring finger, and that shows like you're with us, because Skarsgård was missing the finger, right? And Clancy Brown
Yeah.
was missing the finger, so that he's gonna have to take his own finger, and that's the initiation. But I did feel the actual consequence of the scene was like, why did it matter if he slid through?
Skarsgård's just being a dick in the end. Like,
I guess so, yeah.
I'm with you, Travis. I also thought he was taking the finger there, but like when he gave him the choice of pulling it out or ripping the hand out, I hated the scene just for like the visual of it. It was a well done scene to get that reaction out of me for sure. And yeah, but I was still just kind of like perplexed of like why he had to do that when like in reality the bounty is on John Wick. Like nobody has to like stab them in the hand, rip
Yeah.
it out to claim that money. Like nobody. We have so many like bounty hunters that are after John Wick here. I guess it's just to have like the direct deal with the Marquis in that moment. But that was something that when I was really like splitting hairs, I was like, that just seemed weird and unnecessary in my mind. But
well, the
it's
bounty
super
wasn't
minor.
high enough, right? Like he wanted to keep raising that.
No,
up,
but
'cause the
Kirkland's
bounty-
just saying that he didn't need to tear his fucking hand up to get that bounty. You know, like he could just take the sword out and be
but
like,
he
I'm
did,
gonna get
like,
the
'cause-
bounty.
Well, there's no other way to kind of like amp it up. Like, you needed to have this meeting with him to talk to him. Like, hey,
But if he
I'm,
would have
like,
just waited, the bounty would have gone up.
Yeah,
throughout
that's
the movie.
true. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
guess
but
his
that's
hope was
not
that
something
John
he-
Wick didn't get killed. I guess, right? That,
he could wait, but he didn't know that the bounty would go up. Someone else could get the kill or anything, and that's something that's alluded to right in Osaka when he saves John Wick. He's like, I'm keep my eyes on you. I need you to stay alive for now because I got to get the bounty up before you die, or at least so I can kill you. So he was trying to play it in his court, and I don't think he anticipated that the Marquis would be that psychotic. So
Yeah. He caught him he caught him off guard for sure. I see your point there. I think just because I saw the character as just this super well planned out, like knew all the thing, and I guess that was the point because the Marquis did kind of catch him off guard. Maybe he felt like he had to really sell his devotion in that moment, but just in my mind, it seemed like he didn't really have to. Like he could have pulled the knife out.
I think the
just been
handstand
fine.
like did enough, right? That's where I was, where it showed
Yeah.
like he stabbed him in the hand, and Bill Skarsgård like kind of had him dead to rights there. He could have done that and then killed him, right? So I feel like that was
Yeah.
enough, but they gave us a gross out scene, and the
Again,
hand didn't really make a difference later on either. But
Yeah, I'm like totally splitting hairs here. Like overall, I still love the character, but just that was the one moment where I was like, "Is this a perfect movie? I don't know."
I'd have to watch the scene again to hear the specific dialogue because in the moment it felt good to me, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like in that scene how, again, like you mentioned it, Travis Dog's a reoccurring theme. Like his hand, like he's in total shock. His hand just got stabbed, and his immediate attention is turned to his dog, like, "No, please don't," or like, like telling his dog to like sit and to calm down.
I was scared. I was scared that moment.
I was
thought
scared
that was gonna
too.
be the end for the dog. There was multiple moments in the movie where I was fearing for the dog for sure.
Yeah, he got
That
hit
dog
by a car,
is a
right?
tank. Yeah, got hit
Yeah.
by a car. Oh, like, and there's
got
not
right
even
back
like a
up
bullet.
too after that.
Got right back up. No bulletproof vest on this dog. Like
needs a suit.
Halle
Needs a
Berry's.
Kevlar suit for the dog. That'll look awesome.
Yeah.
Oh
then
yeah,
so-
Halle Berry's. I forgot that she had armored up the dogs. That's right.
Yeah. I guess we should probably talk about him a little bit too. Just we talk about Marquis, but not exactly like Bill Skarsgård. I know he will pop up, but again, Bill Skarsgård. I like that we're between this barbarian, which obviously was like a very fun like typecast role, but that was on purpose. Like, I like that he's branching out. Like I've seen him a bunch of stuff. Like I'm happy he's not just gonna be known as Pennywise. That was always my fear is that guy was just gonna get typecast as the horror guy, and that's why I was worried about Barbarian. But I like even roles like this. I think he did a good job of just being like just a snooty bitch, but had lots of power, because all these people are following him. He's making all these moves, the things like with Mr. Nobody in the Hand. So it shows like, okay, he didn't choose to fight John Wick at the end because he was smart to a point. Obviously, it happens, but like, it shows that he could still mess people up too. He's not completely. So that's why I think it gave a good air of mystery of this guy of like, and at first when he did accept the challenge to John Wick, and later on he made Kane in the fight, but at that point, like, wow, this guy's going to fight John Wick. Like, this guy's top shit. And then he thinks better of it. No, I'm going to have Kane do it because why would I die and stuff like that. I like that. And even then when he did end up dying, it's because, again, he was too overconfident. It was just a bullet. We still don't really know what the guy's skill level was. And I kind of like that the whole way as far as like, okay, he is maybe a bit more behind the desk. He's a planner, but he could fight his way out of something if he needed to. And I think he was just a good antagonist. There's not, it's a classic antagonist of not the, from his point of view. No, it's just, he's a bad guy who wants to kill our antagonist, but I think Bill Skarsgård's playing him in a very fun way. And I like that. And I really like the chemistry he had with Ian McShane too, like with Winston. Mm-hmm. I think that was a good back and forth they had. So Skarsgård, I'm just happy and I'm just ready to see him in more stuff. Like just more, I feel like he's just one of those like, he just adds to the role when you see him. So I was a fan of Marquis, and he's definitely my favorite, I'd say, like, main villain of the series that we've gotten so far. Well, yeah, so far, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really liked him, and like you were saying, Travis, when he actually accepted the duel, I was like, holy shit, we're actually going to see just the full extent of his powers, for lack of a better term there. But because in the rules setting, he wanted to do blades, and I was like, holy shit, he must just be the super fencer guy. Obviously, like Yu-Gi-Oh, the cards didn't go his way in that sequence, so we ended up getting a pistol duel. But I was kind of, I don't know, I wanted to see what he could really do with blades, but I guess he would have just nominated Kane there. So
well, that's
mind.
it. I think in retrospect, he was thinking Kane's like advantage.
That's why he won the blades, because the
there you
pistol,
go.
even
That
though it
makes
didn't
sense,
really matter. Which even then, like, I was like, I liked the card scene, but even then I was like, okay, this was almost the most over the top I could accept. Of like, I love the setting was like, why are we flipping these like cards? Like, and I get it because it's the old way and stuff like that. But I was like,
I fucking loved it.
This
feels that was like
very
just the right amount of mystery and like weird John Wick lore stuff, and explained like just enough. And there was like so many unturned cards, and maybe that was just other weapon types or something. But I don't know. I'm imagining all these different like possibilities that could have happened there. But also, they were like kind of like looked like tarot cards, but they were like made of pure glass too. Like,
yeah.
I loved the aesthetic of that. And I mean, we haven't even mentioned Clancy Brown yet, but the fact that he's the one who's like saying everything like sunset and like
it's so
chose
good.
pistols. Like the fact that they got him to do it and not just some other, not to throw shade at whoever else they would have cast in that role, but the fact that they got like an amazing actor who has like such a gravitas with his voice made that scene like even more epic. So I'm a huge Yu-Gi-Oh guy, so maybe that's why I liked it too. Mm-hmm. But I kind of liked that it was this little fucking card duel thing that was just them, breaking down what the rule set was going to be for the actual fight.
Yeah, I still like it. I just laugh when it's like they're there for like a minute and a half, and there's some guy just it's like they're setting it all up, they're getting the seats and the tables and everything, really just to sit down, turn 3 cards, and then they both walk away. It's like, I think there's a better way to do this, guys. But visually, it's cool.
Travis.
I know, and I get it. I said that even right. I'm like, that's why I buy into. It's like, well, this is what they would have done in the past. So it's like, it's the old way. It's fine. I'm cool with it, and it was still fun to see.
The element that like all of the cards are laid down on the table and each of them know like exactly where the card is that they want to pick too is like just kind of shows that they have a respect, or this is like in the rule book, when you join the organization is you have to know where all these cards are laid out. It was for me, it was like just cheesy enough without being too cheesy.
Yeah.
I forget, Kirklin, you were saying something, and then we went to a little tangent there.
The Marquise, we were just kind of talking about the Marquise, and like when I first saw, I don't know, maybe I just forgot Bill Skarsgård was in this, so when I saw him
I did too,
on
actually. When he was on screen, like, oh, right.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, though, obviously coming off of Barbarian. Saw him in that, and just his like what you had already mentioned there, Travis, just seeing this guy do other things. Like I'm really starting to see the layers of this actor, and he was doing a Frenchman here, very, very different from obviously the Pennywise role, but also just his character in Barbarian. And initially I was like, I don't know if I need this like Frenchman accent out of him, but it definitely grew on me as the movie went on, and just man, I love just the suits that he was rocking. It was like a very same style of suit, just like different, like, I don't know, patterns or whatnot throughout the movie. But like he always had like that one pocket watch, and like I'm not even gonna guess what type of suit it was, but it just seemed that like that high Victorian era. Yeah, absolutely. And just whether, I'm assuming that's like his house or maybe his office, where it was like it looked like a fucking royal like meeting room. Just so much detail there. Him in the opera house. He was just he was a character that, like you mentioned earlier, Travis, like it seemed like he was kind of just a wimpy, like, I don't know, airhead, like, not maybe airhead.
Airhead, what's up, John Wick? I'm gonna
he's
kill you.
he's like arrogant and like so full of himself. Like he just, but like I didn't believe that he had that combat experience or anything. But then the sequence with the tracker, Mr. Nobody, it really is like, okay, no, this guy could kill someone, and I believe it for sure. And just Bill Skarsgård's performance, I think was really, really solid. And yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he's the best antagonist that we've seen so far throughout the John Wicks. Because he was a little bit complicated. It wasn't just like he was like a super angry guy or like the super arrogant guy. Like it was a super just full of himself guy. Like it was a mixture of everything. Blended together nicely, and he was just sharply dressed, so that added to it.
Oh yeah, those suits, man, it's really good stuff.
Insane. I love the just kind of air of mystery about him, that it kind of felt like maybe he was someone who got into his position through like an inheritance or something like that, or like
Nepotism.
his dad was like a relevant guy, but like
Nepo
in this
baby.
organization I feel like you have to earn everything, so there was like that element to it. We never really see him fight, but his reaction time when he stabbed Nobody in the hand, like that, like it's almost like they sped that up or something. Like that was like in fast forward. So I think there was like enough of that where it showed, okay, he is, when he needs to be, he can like get down. And obviously we never really got to see that in a big way, which I'm also okay with. But yeah, I one thing I really liked about him is that it seemed like very few people respected him in a way, and they would always, like, especially with Ian McShane, I really like the dynamic between those two, because they would have these conversations back and forth where Ian McShane's like pretty much just not buying into the BS that he's telling, but then there was something about him where he would always have the last laugh. Whenever Ian McShane was about to leave the scene, Winston, I should just say Winston, it's easier. Whenever he was about to leave the scene, Skarsgård would just like have one more line of dialogue that would throw Winston off a bit, and so he would almost like come out of that encounter winning. And that's kind of what happened with Nobody too, or that in that whole sequence, Nobody was just, he was so confident, he was taking up all the airtime, but then he gets fucking stabbed in the hand, and then he has to pull it out, and all this, like, he'd always would establish just like the sinister side to him underneath it, like right at the end. And so I think that's what made him so captivating for me. And then I also just, since he was like an annoying character in a way, a good annoying character, I love just every time when he would get duped, or when he's like, when he like calls Nobody and he's trying to get him to take the bounty, and then he's like keeps setting the price higher and higher, so he's raging out and he like smashes his phone on the ground, and then the next scene, like someone on like a fucking platter brings out an old rotary phone, and the way he just like puts it back on the platter when he's done, like all those little details I really enjoyed. And also too, just like what a scumbag that he did this. He's doing this whole duel thing because that's what the table, that's the rules. That's how it goes. You were challenged. He has a family. You have to obey this. But then he just like keeps putting this hit out, and he does not care. He does not want to win this thing through any honor whatsoever. He does not care about that. So he's just trying to do whatever he can to make sure that John does not make it there by sunrise. I loved him for all those reasons, plus what you guys said.
Well, the 2 points you brought, one, I love the phone thing. That had me. And then the second thing when you're talking about like how he's kind of like an inheritance or maybe like nepotism stuff, it's almost like his main goal in this movie is he wants to be known as the guy that killed John Wick, but he wasn't the guy that really killed John Wick, right? Like he keeps talking about the legend and what it will do for him. So that's why you think up to that point, it's like, oh, he is. So when he says he's going to duel John Wick, you're like, oh, I could believe this because so far the character said that he would want to kill John Wick because it would just raise his status. But then when he has Kane battle him, but he still wants to get the final. I can't remember what he says.
Coup de grace.
Like, the coup de grace. He technically still wants to be like, well, he was the guy that killed John Wick. So it's that way of again almost inheriting the legend of he didn't do the work, but then word would travel throughout all these bounty hunter things that this is the guy that killed John Wick, and that would add to his mystique even more, right? So I like that again, kind of almost cheating to get that legendary status, and it didn't work out for him. But
I can't remember if it was Winston or another character, but I like how they set the they just mentioned how like he has all this ultimate power from the table, but that's also kind of a curse because like he has to deal with John Wick, otherwise like he's just gonna get basically axed by the table. Like it's like he just has these emergency powers expecting that result. So it kind of like, I don't know, at least for like my perspective, it put kind of like a time limit for this character. Like he is cocky and arrogant, and like he has all these just super like he's just has an entire ballet recital for himself to just spend time there. But in the back of my mind, it's funny how there's like an hourglass, like very symbolizing just very different things in this movie, but it's also an hourglass for himself because like he has to deal with John Wick, otherwise his time's up. So I like how they mentioned that. I can't remember. I think it was in the the first third of the movie or whatnot, but and again, I can't remember who said it, but I like that it was said because it made it not like this character is just the new like head of the table or something, which it could feel that way because he has just all this power. But the fact that they mentioned that, it's like, okay, no, this guy, he has to get results here. So clearly it lights a fire under his ass.
well, we'll take a next ad break. I'm sure Taylor has some Skarsgårdism, so we'll be right back. And we're back. Taylor's like, nope, let's move on. No.
Yeah. I'm like you. I honestly totally forgot. Maybe I didn't even know that Skarsgård was actually in this because I was surprised. I really, really was. And him doing like the French accent and all that, like I felt like I could still see the Pennywise facial expressions in him when he was standing around. I was waiting for the one eye to kind of go to the side a little bit. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed him playing this role. It was fantastic. I loved every second of it. Again, like he turns on a dime where he's looking at Mr. Nobody. He's like, I like you.
That's a
It's
terrible
always the
French accent.
fucking room voice, dude. Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, hi, Mark. Oh, hi,
So-
nobody.
Yeah, just fantastic villain. And getting kind of persuaded by Winston. Winston's struts in there all confident. He's got like the contract here, like, oh, you've been challenged.
Oh my
and
god,
all
that long
jazz.
walk past all the paintings.
I
So-
really like that. I started to chuckle at it, and it had a lot of depth to it too. Just again, the paintings are huge. I'd love to check a museum out like that, but I digress. Skarsgård just somehow is in this museum. I'm assuming it's a museum. It could be his own private collection, but he's just got his own like private section here and like area where he's just set up camp and he's just chilling. Like, yeah, I think that you hit the hammer. You hit the nail with the hammer.
I hit the hammer on the nail.
The hammer on the nail. Where I think he inherited this power. That's definitely the vibe that I got too, and not necessarily like he's super incompetent in his position, but he's still dangerous. He's still very, very dangerous, but he's definitely got the I'd say the knowledge on how to handle the situation to a point. And I like how Clancy Brown was not overly confident in him because he's like, oh, you didn't have to destroy the Osaka Continental or like to get at Wick. And he's like, yes, I did. That's the point, like to send this message and all that jazz. So there's lots of cool like moments of him and Clancy Brown kind of having that dispute, especially too like when after he's dead and Clancy Brown just kind of walks over and he's like, I don't even think he says anything. He just goes, huh, as he stares at Skarsgård's body and then he just looks off. But yeah, I just think everything with Skarsgård was great. The intro scene, you mentioned the hourglasses, Kirklin, when Winston and I can't remember concierge. I wish I could remember Lance's
Sharon.
character. Sharon, thank you. They walk in there, and Winston's just immediate look onto that hourglass. It just you can feel how nervous he is. It's absolutely terrifying. So when Skarsgård just starts talking, and he starts going off about failures and all that stuff, and he says something else. Oh gosh,
Coup de
I wish I
grace.
could remember it.
About rules, the importance of rules. Brought that up a couple times.
Yeah, because that was something.
This is
Winston
about the
mentioned was
bloodshed.
rules.
The bloodshed was the message. Was that?
No, it was.
Ooh, that's a good
Oh,
line.
We're
sorry,
trying to
no,
throw
I
you a
think-
bone here.
Yeah, it was. I think Winston said it to Morpheus. He was saying like they keep you alive for like 2 reasons, or no, they'll kill if they kill you. You're a martyr. If they keep you alive, you are a
Yes.
coward or a turncoat,
Yeah.
basically. And I like that line.
Thank you for bringing that up, because in the moment I was like, okay, Winston's got some big plot armor here. Why is he not also I get that he killed concierge in the hotel, but it's like they can't trust Winston. They know he's going to turn on him. So I like them kind of using that one line, be like, okay, I can buy that. That's good enough, because that is a thing in this world, right? Like things become legend, and that's been all what he like Skarsgård's been talking about is if I can kill John Wick, like I'm the fucking legend. Pretty much just making it sound like he was, and they almost insinuated that he would be like joining the high table if he were to pull this off. Like they didn't outright say that, but to me that's what the insinuation was, that you would be just as powerful, if not more, than the high table, having this, kind of notch on your belt per se, and lots
You'd
of
be the
people
new
want
guy
that.
in the desert. That's his new position.
Skarsgård in the desert, just oh look at it. Yeah, and then there's another guy, and then another guy that wanted John Wick, and we got Scott Adkins, who is I can't remember his name. He was the big club boss guy.
The Penguin.
Kingpin.
Yeah, pretty much the Penguin Kingpin. Yeah, Scott Adkins, who is a guy that for fucking decades everyone wants was Batman, and I'm always like, yeah. But I will say that Scott Adkins is like, this is actually the best acting I've ever seen him do, because I feel like to me he's always been pretty wooden, so maybe he's getting better. But the club sequence I think was all good, shot well. Like I think that probably for action wise was probably the bottom, but that is not like a bad thing on that. That was great. To me, the standout was the card scene. And I just love that we start with him and Wick, and then Kane shows up, and then Mr. Nobody was like, oh, this is just cool. This is awesome. This is that classic, like a villain and a hero are going to sit down and just talk before the shit hits the fan, the calm before the storm. And I love they get this big elaborate set scene just for the guy to be cheating anyways, to have a 5 of a kind of 2s. Everything about the scene, dialogue, the kind of just ambiance of it, that was a home run to me. And that's why some of my non-spoilers of like there's sequence in this movie that usually that's what I think I've had the last 2. It's where the sequences I remember the most are just the action stuff, which is great because the action's fantastic. But the fact that there's 1 or 2, maybe even 3 sequences that are not just the action stuff, and this is one included, that to me was just fantastic. I could have even took in more of this scene. And then when it went to craziness, so yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Or I guess whatever, villain, mob boss. I like the objective. I like that there's all these different objectives. So masterfully done, that whole thing. Good set
Yeah,
piece.
I love that too. I was very surprised when he started throwing down, just because you're a bigger fellow, I didn't know what I was going to expect from him. But when he starts throwing these high kicks, looking like
yeah.
Chun-Li and stuff, I'm like, what's
Bicycle
going
kicks,
on?
yeah.
I was loving that, and he felt impenetrable. Like this guy had like several
Yes.
layers of Kevlar on. Like any hit just felt like it was doing nothing. So I like, oh my god, when he throws Wick off that ledge and he fucking smashes on that like little pole that's jutting out and smashes his face down on the ground, and then the like water's just pouring down on him. My god, I just cringed at like John Wick's poor back in that moment. Of course, he gets back up
whole
and he ends up
movie.
doing a whole fight scene. But and then immediately after that with the axes, I really liked that fight.
Yeah.
That was very visceral. The one guy gets hit in the head and he like does the classic like slowly slipping down the wall kind of thing. But then, man, again, when John Wick like just threw the mob boss down that staircase and just crunched his neck. Oh, like there's so many cringe moments in that fight scene. But yeah, I mean, I think if you compare it to, the big Paris set piece or Osaka, of course, it's not going to match up with that in terms of quality. But for me, for what it was like just as good as those. I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. And yeah, that character was so much fun for me. He had me laughing multiple times, as you mentioned, the poker scene. And then I really like the ending of that too, when John has to go get his memento, and then he goes up to him and just like starts punching his face in, and I feel like they use that same like audio cue that you got at the start of the movie when he was punching that like testing.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like
Did
a
that
good
break your
callback.
speakers too, Travis? Was that the
That one
exact
wasn't
same?
as bad, but it definitely did crack the first punch. But yeah,
That's
it was great that it was like a full on parallel to the
nice
beginning.
little callback for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I loved that sequence. It was great.
And his face too, when he was like punching him, just had this like weird smile on.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
When I was completely shocked when he was thrown down, and I was completely in it though. It just seemed like something out of like Street Fighter, you know, where you have like a character who just seems to be defying the laws of physics with how he's moving his body. But yeah, he was bringing it for sure, and very much like the Blob from X-Men. Go check out those retros on
Yeah.
Patreon. Just completely invulnerable. Nothing can get through him. When John was fighting him, I was like, man, he just needs to like get this guy to fall on his head or something, because I feel like that'll just crush him. And that's exactly what happened. So I was like, oh, look at that. That's exactly how you would have to deal with a character that's just completely invulnerable. His own weight would just have to snap his neck. But yeah, not to like just repeat everything you guys said, but I loved basically everything of like the card sequence of everyone getting there. This character too, just like the grossness of like the fat suit he was wearing, the like golden teeth, like he was just really gross. And the way that he would like just laugh at like random moments, he would like say something, just kind of laugh to himself like he was his own like biggest fan. It seemed like a character that was just like gross, but I couldn't take my eyes off of him. I was just like, this character is so fascinating to me. Really just like elevated that scene amongst like our main players in the movie, other than the Marquise. Really, we have the Tracker, John, and Kane, as well as like this guy who's dealing them in. And yeah, the game that they played, like handing out the cards. Obviously, you got the 5 of the pair. From start to finish, I loved all of that stuff. I think if like Dylan, you mentioned, like maybe it gets kind of overshadowed by like the Osaka sequences or like some other moments in this movie. This could be like the scene in maybe a lesser movie, because it was just such a fantastic like start to finish. I love too when movies do like the nightclub fight scene, especially when there's rain coming in. Shout out to Blade. Can't remember if it was Blade 1 or 2, but just like
Blade
that
1,
opening.
yeah.
Oh my god, so memorable for me. Feel like either Bad Boys or like Miami Vice had like a sequence too like that. So I love that. So obviously this was just more of that, but with a fat man that just would not quit and crazy roundhouse kicks. So yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, again, I'm just broken record. I'm just echoing everything you guys have said. Like, I was not
Next
expecting.
topic, you're going first.
I was not expecting him to dish out the martial arts. That just caught me by complete surprise. Especially because he's on the run. He's running away, and John Wick like shoots him in the ass, and he's like
He looked
freaking
scared.
out, and-
He looked very vulnerable.
He looked
like
very
a shot
scared.
deer or something.
So like, and
just
you
like,
didn't
yeah,
know
so-
that was Scott Adkins or anything like that, right? Because Scott.
No, like I saw the
okay.
posters, and I'm assuming he's a martial artist, right?
Yes, yeah, and he's
Yeah.
like that's what he's well known for. That's why everyone wanted to be Batman, because he's like a
okay.
jack guy who looks like Bruce Wayne, who's just like can go, and he's always in a bunch of fight movies. So he's a long
Holy, he's
history. of-
handsome. That's crazy.
Oh
I had
yeah,
no idea.
yeah. So
Apparently
like
he
he's
was
a
in
long,
Day Shift.
yeah, he's a long history of those type of roles.
Yeah, I didn't put 2 and 2 together, and so yeah, when he confronts John Wick, yeah, they're fighting, and he just does this out of nowhere roundhouse kick and sends Wick flying over that ledge to where you were mentioning there, Dylan, where he hits that pole and then falls down. Holy fuck, that was just nuts. But the whole card scene, the game, like the dialogue, I don't know. Sometimes those scenes can like be a hit or miss for me, but damn, this was the whole thing. I love this so much, and you're right, Kirkland. He would say something like, "Oh, so you want to kill Mr. Wick, and you want to kill Mr. Wick," and then he's like, "Ha ha, we got a kerfuffle," or something like that. He's just,
I think he
he's
did
so
say
weird.
kerfuffle. I think he
He did.
Yeah.
No, that was a good one.
I-
My whole
I-
theater was cracking up with this guy and those lines.
He was such a character. Holy shit. Yeah, I just absolutely could not get enough of him. He knew how to throw
He's in
down
both
and got through.
Wolverine movie and Doctor Strange. Apparently,
Yeah, I remember him in
don't know
Doctor
who this
Strange.
guy
I don't
is.
remember in Wolverine, but yeah, he always has like
He's
some.
weapon. What number is that? 9.
Oh right, is he weapon 11?
Weapon 11.
No, he's
yeah.
weapon. So he. Oh my god, I forgot about that. They do this terrible thing in Wolverine Origins when it's Deadpool, and you guys know when they like close his mouth and he's that.
That's him.
But like they flip back and forth between Ryan Reynolds and him playing this. So like anytime
Oh.
Deadpool's fighting, it's Scott Adkins as Deadpool, and then for the face
Oh,
shot, it's
weird.
Ryan Reynolds. I forgot about that. But yeah, and in Doctor Strange, I think he's the body that
He
when
plays
him and
Lucian, also, or Strong Zealot, I guess are his characters' names apparently.
Oh, in Strange, I think he plays the one. Remember in the first Strange when he has that otter body astral projector fight in the hospital and stuff like that? I'm pretty sure that's Scott Adkins. So yeah, you've already seen him a bunch over your life. He's just
Okay.
a big stunt guy and stuff. And he did audition for Batman and BVS, but I think it worked out for the best for everybody. So
Yeah. I don't know Kingpin very much, but he just felt like a Kingpin type.
well,
kinda
Kingpin's
style
nothing like
guy.
this. Not like other than the weight. Kingpin's not like yeah. Kingpin's Kingpin wouldn't be throwing roundhouse kicks. He'll have 15 guys throwing roundhouse kicks. Even though Kingpin is actually like only 5% body fat, and then the rest is all muscle
Yeah,
and everything
true.
like that.
5%.
Matt, like this guy, not so much. But yeah, so-
leading.
oh.
I was just gonna say leading into into this guy. Well, actually, just his
Right.
aesthetic. We got like his table with the coins and just the way the scenes focused on him like playing with the cards. Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and just how John Wick slit his neck open with the card. That was really, really well done. But yeah. So the scene leading up to this, where we got again, I can't remember the actress's name. She's Game of Thrones. She's in Mandalorian. She was the leader of the Russian the family. I can't remember her name though. You know her, Travis. She was the one that took over the family, and she was
Katya?
in.
Katya.
I think that's her.
yeah, but I don't know. She said she's in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
isn't she?
she's in Game of
She's the
Thrones.
wildling, and then she's
Yeah.
the Twi'lek from Mandalorian, isn't she?
Oh yeah, and thank you, and she's
She was in
also
Harry Potter.
Tonks, right? in
Yes,
Harry Potter?
yes, she was, yeah.
Okay,
That's where
That's
I
what I was trying to-
recognize her from. Yeah.
I was trying to place out right. She is that Twi'lek in Mandalorian. That's the best part of Mandalorian. But yeah, I was trying because I could see Tonks, but I could not place where it was from. Like what movie? I remember the hair and everything, but I was like, where is this lady from? And yeah,
Yeah, so
but I know where
she's-
you're going with this.
Yeah, she's leading the Russian group now, and John Wick's going back here to get his family crest, and he's like, okay, how do I find this man? Meaning, the gangster guy, and Scott Adkins. And so she's like, oh, Klaus will show you. Klaus is away. And so this guy comes in, and he's already looking like rough around the edges. You don't want to bump into this guy. He's like, I am Klaus, and he fucking whips John Wick. And John Wick's just kind of like baffled, and he says it again. I am Klaus, and he whacks him. So he's clearly an I Am Groot character because he
Yes.
goes up to our main Scott Adkins guy. He's like, I am Klaus. And he turns and walks away, and that's
It shouldn't have been funny. It was for me purely just on the actor's delivery of the line. Like, cause it was just like, I am Klaus. Like, it felt like Bill Hader was playing this guy. Like, and cause it's just stupid, but it fucking worked with the look and everything. Cause I was
I would
like,
have loved
this
if it
is-
was Bill Hader who was this fucking
Yeah.
random guy.
I was like, this is just an I am Groot character. It's weird that it's working, but it fucking worked on me. It was just like, I couldn't, it was stupid humor, but it worked, you know?
It's corrupted me too, because Taylor, your famous gif of the guy whipping. That's what I think of now. I'm Klaus, and he just like whips.
Taylor needs that one now when this movie comes to 4K. You gotta
Yeah.
replace it with the I'm
Certain-
Klaus. And
Certain
Yeah.
scenes are just like even the ending of this when they're like, "Look at the sunset, isn't it so beautiful?" And I'm just thinking of that fucking Thor scene. Like,
look at my son.
I'm like, oh, it
Never
actually looks
displaced
good
my
here,
son.
but I just can't. That scene is just forever embedded in my mind now.
Well, Taylor, even though you're talking about Klaus, you can lead off because this portion, we talked about they did the duel, the meeting, everything. They talked about that. Love how Winston works in like getting the Continental back and everything.
Oh,
when Wick
yeah.
here, like, yeah,
He
like,
looks at
him. Yeah, so that was fun. I like that. But then, and Dylan referred to this earlier, so the duel's gonna happen, but either two ways of these are gonna put this massive bounty on him, and either he's gonna get killed on the way of the duel, or he's gonna get weakened to the duel to help. And that's what it is from point A to point B. They get him as close as possible. They take the road and they go into the water. And again, I love the conversation that him and Winston have about dying and stuff like that, and about like, he didn't know what to put in the gravestone, and that's where the loving husband part comes in and stuff like that. But then we just get a balls to the walls from in the streets, in the roads to, we thought the Joker had to walk up some fucking stairs. No. This John Wick has to go down a flight of stairs. And yeah, Tay, what do you think about the actual, the getting to the final duel?
Holy shit. Yeah, like everything about this was fantastic. Having the radio station just kind of like update the hit people, mercenaries, where he is, and just playing different tracks was fantastic. Going around like the Arc de Triumph. It was just fantastic. It was so incredible. And the way they filmed it too, with the cars just, and they're like zigzagging in between, and people getting like hit by the cars and stuff, like
Fuck.
it was just crazy.
Traffic's
And
scary, man.
Oh, it is very scary. Holy shit. The combat from that was incredible, and this is where for me it really started to shine for the Marquis' main head honcho guy, because like I don't even know how many times John Wick got hit by fucking cars, but like a lot. And just you have to bear that in mind, because shortly after, he jumps like 3 stories out and like smashes into a car because he's still trying to get to, the church. And I remember when that scene where he did this whole fight sequence inside this abandoned building. He jumps out the window and he lands in the car. The guy next to me in the seat, he's like, "Oh my God, Johnny, why?" He's just like freaking out.
He was going through stuff.
Yeah. But that staircase scene, I was not expecting anything like that. Like it was just like my brain was just absolutely soaking it in. Him getting up and like doing all these cool stunts, like sending people back, like rolling down the stairs and stuff. And finally he gets to this point where Justice Genesis kicks in, the John Wick version. Oh, this was just so banger. Holy shit. And yeah, he just goes to town, and then what happens? He gets knocked down all the fucking way to the bottom. Oh,
I know
Biggest
you didn't
reaction
talk
in
about
our
it first,
theater.
but that's like that's the score track you're talking about.
Justice Genesis, yeah. Yeah, it's
It's
so
like
good.
I missed that part of the movie. I don't remember him getting Justice
It's a
Genesis.
new character.
Yeah.
Justice Genesis.
Justice Genesis. Yeah, and that was a great rendition too, to have like the song switching and like the radio DJ, and that's like such a fun aesthetic. But yeah, the stairs, that got the biggest reaction in our theater, just like how outrageous it was. And I think that was like kind of like, there's other scenes, but I feel like, and I don't even know if it's my favorite set piece in the whole franchise, but I feel like that's the best example of a John Wick action set piece, where it starts with the fighting, it escalates. You have big brutal humor in there, but you have lots of laughs and just like kind of like the oh my God moments, like this is ridiculous, and kind of starts over. And that started the also kind of like wondering what gonna happen with Kane, and then Kane gets to go up the stairs. Like I can't say anything more what Taylor said. I just thought it was like it went on for so long, but in a justifiable way. The same way as like the last, like in the Return of the King, how the final battle goes on for so long, or even Helm's Deep and stuff like that. But it's a good long, where it's like he gets knocked all the way down and you don't go, oh, we're gonna go back up and just do the same stuff. It's like, no, there's something more fun. Obviously Kane, but just like there was something to it, and you had the ticking clock. So yeah, it was the whole sequence was great, like getting there, the traffic, but that stairwell, that's something that is just I think it will be burned in my mind for quite a while, and a good kind of dark nighttime energy right before that sunset. There's fog around, and yeah, it was a good time. I'll say that it was a very well done time.
Especially when the DJ like she says like, oh, all he has now is 200 whatever steps, she says the number, and like I felt like it was 200 steps. Like it seemed like he really made that trek up twice, because he got knocked down. Man fell down a hill like a freaking snowball. I swear he was like gaining speed the more he was going down.
He's like the Juggernaut.
There's a hot rod moment for sure going down that.
And I guess I forgot to mention too, my actual favorite part, and this might be my favorite set piece of, sure, it's kind of fourth wall breaky, but was when Mr. Nobody finally got the clearance to go kill Wick of like 40 million. But they did this like great bird's eye view of him going room to room. I'm not sure if you were talking about the tape, but that felt very video gamey of just far as like the way it was. And I would have loved to be on set that day when they shot that, because I don't think it's all one continuous shot, but there's parts of it that are, and man, it was just cool going to the choreography. Also got the incendiary rounds in that, which were just like,
amazing.
Oh my God, that was a great payoff. But that set piece, that might be my new favorite. Just room to room, top, seeing the guys come around, John Wick going, it was just, that was a moment where I wasn't even enjoying the film. I was just impressed in the filmmaking of like, look at what they've pulled off with the scene, because this is not, and that's where their fourth wall break, right? Because you're literally seeing the set that they've built to do this, but it's just like, I don't even care. Like, this is just top tier director flexing filmmaking right here. Like, look at what we're doing here, and that must have been a bitch to shoot, but so much fun.
I saw this movie with Tyler, Patreon Tyler. Shouts out to Patreon Tyler, and he mentioned that like that was basically a scene like right out of Hotline Miami, if you guys know that video game, where it's just the top down, super high octane violence, like just big explosive shotguns and like stuff like that. And that's exactly what it was. And yeah, I had like goosebumps during that entire sequence. Like it was so fun of like the action. Every time those like incendiary rounds went off, I was like audibly, I was like, oh my God, like holy fuck. Like I just felt the same thing with like the longbow that Akira was shooting off early on. Like I felt the power in those shotgun shots, like as if I was like getting hit like it's a freaking 4D movie or something. Just the effect of it and like the way that the characters would just fly. Oh my gosh, it was... Oh, I feel like I'd never like seen them done that way too in like a movie or anything, but I really felt the power. And yeah, the music going to that scene, it was, man, 10 out of 10. Like that sequence was just so fantastic.
That one guy, he got shot, and like I think it was the grease or the oil on this like the counter, it shot, and he got lit on fire, and he started running and screaming, and he comes around the corner to John Wick and he gets blasted again. Just a horrible way to go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Pretty vicious. I'll try not to repeat what you guys said, but to me that felt like a short film just within this thing, right? Because that whole sequence is pretty long, and it's kind of like nicely split into 3 acts, even if you think about it that way, where you have that opening sequence when they're out with the vehicles and that whole sequence, which I would love to see the behind the scenes on that in particular, in terms of like that feel like every single moment of that feels like there's a car about to hit the cameraman, about to hit every single person. So I'd love to know how they pulled that off. But like just the sounds too made that as powerful as it was. Even like when John like gets the bike and then he just like puts it up into a wheelie and sends it into a guy who just smashes him into the side of a car. Like all that was fantastic.
I love when he dropped his gun and he had to like try to time the pickup because he had no door.
That was sick. Yeah, and when he's doing like that donut around and he's just like free firing into those guys in the middle.
Imagine if you're like a pedestrian watching this, like, what the fuck is like? To me, that sequence was the closest we've ever gone to. You know, when you're in GTA and you just want to get 5 stars, that's what John Wick on the road was doing there. Just like trying to
5 stars.
Yeah, just trying to get this thing up. But I was happy the thing with the gun because I was so mad. Like Lawrence Fishburne built it up. He's like, oh, you could do this. Even at close combat, it has like extra teeth on it. So when it just went on the ground, I was like, no. But then when they did like him looking, it was like a zoom on the gun. I'm like, oh, thank God, because I would have been pissed if he just left it. And yeah, because he had that gun with him the whole time, he just kept grabbing other guns too.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned the radio host, but what I loved about that is it was a bit of a it just kind of like put the intensity back, give us a bit of a break, a reprieve for like 30 seconds a minute in between those 3 big like action set pieces. And once again, like just the way they shot those sequences, like she just looked so cool. You'll never see the bottom half of her face. She has like that huge like golden nose ring. And once again, like the color palette that they chose for that and the way it's shining on her face, like just looked beautiful. And I loved all the code names she was using, and she's talking about like the bounty, but I forget what she used for that. But she's like, and like the wicked man is now going down like 13th Street, like all these different like code words. And sometimes she just like says exactly what's going on. But I like that kind of going in and out of that, and then you like see the next group of people that are, you know, gearing up, getting ready to go find him. So I thought that was like a nice little break in between these different set pieces. And then, yeah, you guys mentioned the top-down shot, but that was... what was the other movie that did that recently? I feel like there was a movie last year that had a top-down shot like that. That just... Or Malignant did that. Malignant had that top-down shot right in that house. I love those top-down shots. Those are always fun. But it did feel very video game-y to me as well, because obviously the John Wick Hex is an isometric kind of top-down-ish looking game. So to me that felt like a bit of an homage to Hex. I don't know if it actually was. And then obviously, yeah, the explosive rounds or incendiary rounds were pretty cool. And yeah, for the staircase, I guess, yeah, also there's like great narrative stuff happening between this too, where we already talked about what happens between Nobody and John and the kind of respect that they have for each other. I think as like assassins, but also because of the dog companionship. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
nobody doesn't really know that John Wick is a lover of dogs or anything like that. But obviously, it's kind of like implied. And then when he saves them, and that's the moment when he turns. And then also the same thing with the staircase scene. The fact that that's when Kane wants to end this thing respectfully. He is not like the Marquis. He does not want to like get a cheap win here, a technicality. He wants to win in the duel as it should be, kind of thing. So the fact that he comes in to save the day at the end is really cool. So yeah, that sequence is fantastic, and the great like big final set piece before just the emotional ending point of the movie, really.
And the thing with Nobody, again, like we talked about the dog, but remember to save the dog, he took his sights off of Nobody. So instead of killing Nobody, he saved the dog. So that's another thing. Like, you saved my dog, but also you spared me. When he had him dead to rights, like John Wick has no reason to, other than he loves dog, to not shoot Nobody here.
Exactly.
He's trying to be killed, right? So, and I love Nobody's result where he just ends up grabbing a beer, sitting down on the bench to watch this
Pour
final
some in the
dude.
bowl for his dog.
Yeah, yeah.
I-
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, also from a world building perspective, we talked about how, like, man, one of those like stations where all those different people are, patching in different numbers when they're sending out, like, when
The
John goes
operators.
excommunicado. I love that was just in the Eiffel Tower in this movie. Like, they just have taken
It's
over
so
the Eiffel
fucking
Tower.
yeah.
It's like it's stupid, but it's good. It's like
Yeah, I just
it's
went
once
with it.
again the good John Wick cheesy that I'm all into.
It's a good broadcasting tower, though. You know,
Yep.
set up a
Yeah,
radio.
probably great antennas and shit.
That's a big theme for movies because you have it in Men in Black, it's the Eiffel Tower, and
Oh, yeah.
you have it like Rush Hour 3. Like, it just seems to be the go-to for like
Classics.
evil bases or evil something evil.
They'll never expect it. It's hidden in plain sight.
symbol
Well-
of evil.
Yeah, and they're gonna do Austin Powers, and Dr. Evil's gonna be there next, pretty much. So, we'll take our last ad break, because then we'll talk about this duel and the finale of some certain characters. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So, I don't know where to go with it. I guess we could just cover the duel first. I don't have much to say here. Just loved it. It was great, and I think for all, and because at first when we were getting the duel, right, and I wasn't sure what we were gonna do. I knew they were talking about the paces, but it's like, I know it's John Wick. Is this gonna break down to a full-on fight between him and Kane and stuff like that? So I was almost a little annoyed at the moment. Like, okay, luckily the action scene was great, but when they put the bounty on, I'm like, oh well, we're already gonna have this really, like, I imagine long duel and big action. Like, do we need more action here? It panned out, so that worked for me. But then I love that the duel they stuck to just the paces and the gun. It's a slow one. It's character moments. It's just like, it's a certain intensity. You're getting the shots and the little breaks. So the duel, I don't have much to say other than I love that we had all that high octane action. That was almost like, okay, we're going to get that out of the way so we can do this really kind of smaller tier, still intense, but smaller tier finale with Kane and Wick. And I loved every second of it.
Yeah, I completely just ate into the fact that Kane is this blind assassin, and he's blind, but it does not hinder him in any regard. Leading into the duel and knowing that he was going to be doing like a pistol duel with John Wick, I'm like, okay, how is this going to work? Like, really? Like, especially if it's John Wick here. Like, come on, even though it's his friend, how is this going to work? I love though how like Kane just like very sneakily just like stabs his dominant hand. That like he had to do the duel with his left hand, which definitely makes it at least a lot more even in that regard. Even though Kane, I mean, he's got like Daredevil echolocation really by this point,
he's
so-
listening to that breathing going on. Yeah.
yeah, it's not that big of a deal, but I like that they add that little detail in, because it made it, at least for myself, a lot more believable that it went as even as it did, because although all these characters don't want to kill each other, they know that they have to, because that's what's going to end the table's interference in their lives.
I don't think I have much to add. It was great. Yeah.
Taylor.
Yeah, I was not sure what to expect from this. How it was going to go down, like a fight, like out in the open. They're wearing their suits, so how like they're going to be blocking bullets and stuff like that.
Very smart director or sound or costume design choice to make sure you put them in white. That is a classic thing you do in wrestling too. When you're gonna have a bloody match, you always wear white gear, because that scene doesn't work as well if those two aren't wearing white. Because with every little shot, right, you see the nicks, you see the blood pouring and stuff like that. So
Like
very
expanded
smart.
too as
Yes.
like the duel was going on. His
So
whole arm was
very-
just bloody.
very smart on their part to do. And I'm sure they knew that, but still, I was just like, right when they took off their jackets, I'm like, oh, right, perfect. That adds to, because if they were in black, the scene would be dead. Like, you just be like, okay, they must
They're
be
wearing red
shot. They're
shirts.
bleeding. Yeah. It's like, okay, but the white, very smart move.
I like too,
Yeah.
like when he took off his jacket and just all the bullets were just like falling off his
Oh,
Kevlar
so
suit.
cool.
Great
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another thing, like kind of just like a touchback point. But all the scenes, just like before, where the guys like they keep holding. This is a thing with the previous John Wicks, but they hold their coat like up over their heads to protect their heads. I just love that. It's a cool little subtle thing. But yeah, this duel just felt westerny. I thought it felt like a high.
Oh yeah,
noon
they did the
kind of a
little they did the
thing.
little tune there. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. And yeah, just the one slug loaded into the chamber, and oh, it was just fantastic. They open up the box, and these two pistols just look like they're pulled out of like
Oh,
the
yeah.
high table ancients.
Dishonored, yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, this was just something else. So yeah, I like how they both got shot in the arm, and just really trying to figure out how this goes down and just how it ends up turning against the Marquise. That was great, especially Winston just getting that that one up. Like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but like,
It's like, you
his gun
arrogant
is-
asshole or something
Yeah, his
like
gun's
that.
still loaded.
He said, yeah, he never shot. He said, "You
He never
arrogant
shot,
asshole." He
yeah.
never shot, and that's where it was because it was just like, okay, Kane got him, I guess, and he didn't shoot. But then when it was just like consequences, and it's like, oh, and that's what I love too, that Marquise, he did go out and just a headshot. That's it, like nothing elaborate, not a big fight scene, just boom, gone. And because his I don't know, machismo, his confidence just fucked him over. He had to take that one last shot, you know.
His
Ugh.
facial expression, that's like my like Skarsgård. Like, if you think he did some great expressions in it, like, watch this movie, because his facial expression of that realization that John Wick still has a loaded gun was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, he gets the kill, but you know, it's, what were we gonna say, Kirkland?
At what cost?
At
Well, I
what
was just gonna
cost?
say that, like, yeah, I was in shock, like, when Kane shot him. I'm like, oh my god, like, they actually were bold enough to kill John Wick here. Like, I totally believed that was going the route, because I don't know, the overall feel of the movie just seemed, especially like when he mentioned like, oh yeah, put loving husband on my tombstone. I'm like, fuck, this guy's gonna die this movie. Like, this is exactly what's gonna happen.
Well, and you bring to me the very first time you hear John, like when John Wick, other than the guy in the desert, when he does talk to Shimizu, right? That's his name. The conversation is
Shimatsu.
literally, how's this gonna end? It's gonna end with you like either free or dead. And the idea is, oh, you could be free, but multiple characters bring up of like, it's just gonna end with you dying eventually, because they bring this up of like, you killed whatever the guy in the desert, you kill the high table, there's just another. It literally is not gonna end with you killing them all. It's kind of pointless once, which I kind of liked, because chapter 3 was like, I'm gonna kill them all, and I like that right away in chapter 4 they're like, that doesn't matter. Like 15 minutes in, they're like, the plan's stupid because you can't kill them all. There's no way out of it, and
They
that's
just
where
replace them.
yeah. So, but that's where, like, to me, all the characters pretty much were insinuating, yeah, you're gonna die. Like, it ends with your death. So,
Yeah, very believable. And then that's what made the shock just that much crazier. It's like, he never shot. I'm like, oh my god, he didn't. Because I was looking to see, I don't know, like if he nicked Kane or something. Like, I don't know,
The
but
gun residue on the gunpowder on Keanu's.
yeah, I zoomed in really quick. Yeah.
stop. Yeah, just Kirkland his phone. But you know, Kirkland said like, "Oh, you thought they were gonna kill John Wick, but in reality, you know, he takes a couple more steps, has a good." I like Winston's one of his last lines. So when he's out there, he just tells him to have some fun and stuff like that. Like, I like that was playful to kind of solemn, and then he's walking down the steps. He's got the church behind him. He gets a flashback of his wife, and you know, when everybody gets a flashback of their dead wife, it's like, all right, it's definitely over for you. He collapses, and then the next scene we get is Winston, and I never remember Lauren Fishburne's name in this
Morpheus.
movie.
Bowery King.
The king, yeah, the king. They're standing at a gravesite. You got Mrs. Wick, and then you got John Wick with the loving husband. I laughed at He's like, you think he's in heaven or hell? I'm like, I feel like if you believe in heaven or hell, it's a pretty, because Winston's like, we'll never know. But it's like, I don't know. If you believe in that thing, John Wick's definitely in hell. Like, he probably killed a lot of innocent people as an assassin. But they're like, do you think? Because even John Wick's last word, didn't he say heaven? Is that what he said or something
He's
like
only
that?
killed bad people in these movies.
Oh
that I've
boy,
seen.
yeah, in these movies, right? What happened the years before? But
What happens to John Wick Hex?
yeah,
Some bad people dying in there too.
yeah. So yeah, Dylan, what did you think about looking like it's the John Wick swan song? They didn't really market it as like the final John Wick,
Yeah.
so
I remember them saying that, like, yeah, we're gonna put John Wick on the back burner for a bit.
Yeah.
We're not gonna return to this. Which, yeah, I didn't even like think twice about that. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, they're gonna take a little break. There's
Keanu's
been a lot of
tired.
this. I'm sure. Yeah, these movies are probably a ton of work physically and all that as well. But it kind of all makes sense now. But I mean, I love it that he was finally able to rest when he got his freedom. I think to me that's like a perfect ending to it. But weirdly, I don't know if the ending would have had any more impact for me if he had actually lived. Like, I think the fact that he got his freedom and was kind of cleared of this and didn't have this weight on him anymore, and especially like as we talked about, all these movies take place like back to back to back. Like, it's just
Yes.
an intense like month of his life, really. So I feel like for me, if he didn't fall over on those steps and he was just there and it faded to black or something, I feel like for me it actually would have had pretty much the same impact. And I don't know if that's a sign of just like how good of a movie it is that you could like completely take away what is supposed to be this emotional thing. But like weirdly, I'm not just that emotional about John Wick as a character, I guess. And that's probably just because, I mean, Keanu like has less than like 50 words in this movie, right? Like, he doesn't
Yes.
really talk very much. And even on the emotional side, like, I don't really ever think he's doing anything that impressive on the acting side of things, other than, of course, the actual stunts that he's doing, because he's doing a lot of those, and that is very impressive. But yeah, so I guess that's where I land on it, is that I didn't really need him to die at the end for it to have that impact, but I thought it was very well done for what they did. And if they're going to do a send-off for the boogeyman, for the Baba Yaga, for this guy who is unkillable, then they did it in like the perfect way you possibly could. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty great ending.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Dylan on that, because I'll just bounce off what he says. That I didn't get emotional because, as I alluded to, I do think John Wick's probably killed a lot of innocent people. He's an assassin, so I don't think they're all just bad people. To me, it's just like the end of this character's journey that I've enjoyed watching the action for. I was just more surprised, because I remember the same thing that Dylan said, that like, yeah, we're going to take a break. And it's like, okay, but they'll come back to it at some point. And especially they announced John Wick is in the ballerina, which is clearly a prequel, I guess. So it's like, oh, there's still these signs that
I didn't even know that, actually.
yeah, he's confirmed. They literally in the press tour confirmed he's in it. So it's gonna be like, I imagine he probably trained her or helped her or something like. I guarantee you something like that. But I think that's almost a good psych out too. That made me think. Even though once the movie started to go, I guess it wasn't as shocking, because it kind of felt like when we went to go see Logan, of like, they're gonna kill him off here, and I feel like half an hour in this movie, I was like, I think they're gonna kill John Wick, because like I said before, just there's so much talk of death. I'm still surprised that they did it, and I'm happy they had like the cojones to do it, because this film's gonna do Bach like gangbusters. I hope the same way this is raised 3 for me, that we never get a 5 and they don't do some shit like it's a fake grave and he is out there, because I could see them doing that, and that'll bug the shit out of me. In that case, then, like Dylan said, just keep him alive as a free man. So I think this is like a really good, and it's almost just like, what else can you do? Like, it's that thing of like, I feel like in these 4 films they've done so much with this character in this world, and I feel like what you can do is like the ballerina or the side characters we met. I just feel like with John Wick, we've seen the story now, and I feel like this is the way to end it. And if they stick to their guns and leave him dead, I applaud them for killing off such a popular character. At like, you can argue literally the height of this, it's going to be the biggest John Wick. It's like had like a 40% bigger opening than the last one. Like, lots of studios go, like, no, we don't want you to kill. Like, you can injure him, like make it seem like he's dead, but don't actually kill him. So I hope they stick to their guns. But I was not surprised by the story narrative that they did it, but I was still surprised that they went through with it. And I think it was like a fun send off of the he again, like he gets killed, but at the end of the day, when they look at the history books of the duel, John Wick bested the high table, right? And I think that's kind of mattered to, like a pride way. It's like he won that duel. Even if he dies 20 minutes later, he still bested them, and that has to bug the shit out of them. And it's gonna hurt the high table at some point because everyone's gonna know, yeah, John Wick did win that duel, right? So it kind of hurts the high table's kind of aura out there if they could be taken down a notch. So I thought it was a very well done ending from the duel to the send off for the character and stuff. So
That second last part that you just said there, Travis, when you just someone someone new at the high table pissed off that happened. I feel like that's exactly what they could do to get a new movie. There's just gonna be like some new guy that's just pissed off. It's like, how did this happen? I honestly,
but we've done that before, right? Like we just
we have. Yeah. But like this is John Wick. It doesn't really matter. It's making so much money. Honestly, I'm surprised if this is actually the last John Wick movie. So
you think it's a fake grave there?
I think so. I think it's set up in a way that, I don't know. We didn't see his body like going to the ground. It's one of those things, and I see your guys' points for sure, and I think like I definitely agree with you that like this is the healthiest way to probably end his overall journey. The character did what he sought out to do. He bested the high table, and now like he can just actually be at peace. I think they even say that in the movie. Like the only time you'll be in peace is when you're dead. Hey, he's dead now, so he can actually be in peace. But I don't know. It's just while I was watching this movie, I'm like, fuck, man, this movie, like we could get 19 John Wicks, and I think that's that's completely doable because it's just so high octane action and just the overall like vibe of my theater. Everybody was loving it. So like, this is just such a profitable franchise. So with that, like for those reasons, that's why I'm like, I would actually be surprised if this is the end of chapter 4. And I'm not saying that like we're done with this universe in that regard, because obviously we have Ballerina, and I think because it is so profitable, it's just going to keep going on.
And they're doing a show. They're doing a 3-part miniseries show called The Continental. It's like a prequel of like how that got set up. So there's stuff in that world. So
it's just, I think in a couple years, it's just going to be like, oh yeah, Keanu's ready. He's prepped his body. He's been punching that bag so much in anticipation.
And to me, it's not like, I think that's why with like for spoilers for the end of No Time to Die, there was a very specific reason they showed James Bond literally get blown to smithereens. Be like, no, he's dead. Like, no, he's dead. And to me, when they didn't do that in this movie, I did they left a little door open to be like, he just collapsed and there was a grave there. I think them talking about heaven or hell, but you could also just use that as an example for life, right? Like, is he happy or is he not happy where he's currently living? So I hope they keep him dead, but I don't think you're wrong. It's like after they do Ghost of Tsushima, and then 3 years later you get, hey, John Wick Chapter 5 coming, and we'll be like, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
I think with that heaven or hell line, obviously that would be like, okay, well, if Winston's saying this, like obviously he's the one who would know that John Wick died on those stairs. But even Lawrence Fishburne's like response to that, where he's just like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that in a way makes it feel like, oh, maybe he's like in a bunker somewhere or something like that. But yeah,
frozen like the Winter Soldier, just waiting for the next high table duel. They jump in the future. What am I doing?
If they are planning on actually doing more of this as a fake out, I might be a bit salty in retrospect, but
I would, yeah.
We'll have to see, because if the next movie is great and they do it in a way that is satisfying, then like, okay, you got me, just like they got me here. I did not expect to come into this movie loving it as much as I did, so obviously they can surprise me. So
he literally busts out of the grave.
I'm definitely thinking they're going to be putting it on the shelf for a while, then at least like a few years before if they do that surprise comeback. I don't know.
Yeah, Taylor.
Yeah, I am so satisfied with this ending. I was not expecting him to die, so when I saw Winston kind of starting to tear up, tears are coming down as John Wick starts moving off towards the staircase, I'm like, Winston, why are you crying? What's going on? Because I didn't think John was going to die. And he sits down and he collapses over. I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's why Winston's tearing up here. Okay.
That line, too, that he dropped when he's like, Winston, bring me, or take me home or whatever. And says something like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that."
I don't
Paraphrasing, but still, I thought just the line delivery there from what's his face, Ian. I thought it was great.
I had like a weird moment where like This is where he turns bad. Winston's like, "No, John, you're not
Just
coming
shoots him.
home." Yeah.
I'm on
Kicks
the
him down the
table now.
stairs. He runs down the stairs.
Downstairs.
John Wick 5 coming next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Just
think it was-
Starabellum.
I just think it was fantastic. I don't want him to come back. I don't want him to be
all week.
alive. If he is
I
alive,
don't want to be alive. Taylor started choking the body of John
yeah,
Wick.
yeah.
Die, motherfucker, die.
Baba Yaga.
don't want him coming back. I think that they need to just end it right here as they did with this story. I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a cohesive flow of a story. It was great, and yeah. What I
You get to see him
loved-
again. The character's going to come back in Ballerina, so it's like you'll never get any John
So
Wick again.
That's perfect. We'll get John Wick again, so that's great. But I think that this is just fantastic. I want to get the 4-pack now. I'm gonna wait for this to come out. I'm gonna get that 4-pack bundle. I don't own any of the other ones. This is my prime time to shine. I'm gonna buy it.
Prime time.
Steelbooks, whatever we got. And
They
so,
should make it a set of the stairway. Like each case you could take out a disc, but it looks like
Oh.
the stairs. Yeah.
that'd
Call
be
me
a good
Lance.
idea. That'd be very cool.
They won't do it. It'll just be one box.
There's like a little railing you can like put on top of it. Bring your
Yeah.
tech deck out, do some grinding and shit.
Tech
Just
deck.
ruining the Blu-rays. Just like,
Yeah.
why are these so scratched?
Scratching the steel.
I just think that this final chapter was just it was a good closeout for our character John Wick. Like we already said, we're getting him in other mediums, so don't need to have a continuation here. But Hollywood sometimes likes to do that. But
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
hoping that's not the case. So when I do get this as a collection, knowing that he's dead, I still feel like it's not a takeaway whatsoever from watching these other movies. I can watch 1, 2, and 3 knowing that he dies, but still have such pure satisfaction in everything that he does in those movies, because I love all of them. This is like the holy quadrilogy to me.
Is that a thing for you? If you know a character dies in other franchises, it like lessens the film. Like, oh, this fucker dies.
No,
He's
but I
weakling.
know you've mentioned it before.
Lord of the
I think
Rings.
That's
He's
like
like, I
Rogue
fucking
One.
hate this Frodo guy.
Rogue One.
Okay, no, but that's different because not Rogue. That's different because literally when the movie starts, it's like Black Widow, like, hey, she's dead. Like, it's not like with this movie. I knew when I started John Wick 1, he was going to die. Like because that means it doesn't take away that experience of rewatching a movie. If I start a movie like Rogue One and all these characters are dead and I know they're gonna die, yeah, that's a little bit, because then I know the end of the story. Same reason if they called this movie the final chapter, I went, well, we probably know the end here and stuff like that. And even though with all the hints, I did think he was gonna die in this. I didn't know for sure because again, money talks, and we'll see after this box office weekend because it's gonna be huge, and I could see them trying to get them out there, but. I hope not.
That same argument though, Travis. Does that mean that like you're not even excited for next season of You, knowing that it's the final season? You're like, I don't even
Because I don't know if he's gonna die though, right? I don't know. Is he gonna die? Is he gonna be in prison? Is he gonna be free? And they'll
guess
they'll
so.
do You New Blood in 20 years or something like that, right? I don't know for sure what's gonna happen to
with
Joe.
Harrison.
That does not roll off the tongue. You knew blood.
You New
Kind of does,
Blood.
but like in a bad way.
Yeah, You New Blood.
You do blood.
Joe. That's what they're gonna say to him when he goes to prison next season. Hey, You New Blood.
Blood? Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Anything else random to shout out about the movie we haven't tackled before we close it out?
Quick note for me is Lawrence Fishburne. I think this is like the best he is for me in all these movies. I don't even know what it is. I just think he's like chewing the scenery a bit more.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I couldn't name a quote that he had, but I feel like he made me laugh several times. He was being a bit zanier, like he was like on drugs or something. And I don't know. I liked it. He was more enjoyable for me than, because I remember the first time we saw him, I was like, oh, this is a very interesting character. But then the sequels didn't really expand on it in a compelling way. But I really liked what we got here for him.
I like the tombstone sequence. He's like, I picked mine out years ago. Long live the king. Long live the king.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
He just like is like John Wick's tailor. It seems like he's always just got like
Yeah.
fresh suits for him. It's like 42 length or whatever
Carrot.
the hell it is. Carrot. Don't remember that line.
Like,
heavy.
if we're getting married or buried.
Oh yeah,
Something like that.
man needs a
Oh,
great
yeah.
suit for 2 occasions. That was good. That was a good.
That was good. The opening too of him just like walking in. John Wick, you ready? And like, I feel like he was talking to me. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm ready. I had my popcorn ready for this 3 hour
Kirkland's like,
adventure.
yes.
Yeah. He had like he like cause like a triangle flame thing, like it's a fucking National Treasure movie. I was like, I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know the necessary of this, but I like it. It's like
Yeah,
he's
imagine
like lighting the torch.
setting that up every time you leave the house. Like, oh my god, that'd be a lot of work.
I took it like he was lighting the Olympic torch, and I'm just ready for this John Wick adventure. And he just
I also love
set
that
it
he
off
had just
there.
taken over the sewers in like Paris now too. Like,
the catacombs.
Yeah.
Are
I'm
him.
like, I don't like. Did they swim? Did he like go underwater like to get here? I'm so confused. But like at the same time, I don't need the answer.
Speaking of him, I got major Matrix 2 train station vibes when John like just arrives like through that gate. They have like just the homeless people, the network of whatever that are like coordinating this underground network of just Lawrence Fishburne's people, but just the lighting and everything. And like when he sat down, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna get like a Matrix Easter egg or something here. I feel like there was gonna be some line that ties it in together. I'm glad they didn't, just to keep them separate, but still, it was I don't know. I was looking at that through the eyes of the Matrix. I loved the sumo guards that were
those
in
were
the
good,
Osaka Continental, and like the way that they just like like people have like Kevlar like suits or whatever throughout this franchise, but like these guys just like full on like ran at these guys.
Yeah.
Did like
Looking
the
like Jonathan
Adonis-
Majors and
yeah,
Creed.
yeah, the Adonis thing, just blocking themselves. I liked it. When John goes to that like Russian church to get like his crest or whatever, like when he walks in, there's that lady that like takes his guns and she's like, oh, nice revolver, and he like gives it to her and he pulls out like 2 other guns. He's packing. He's always packing, John Wick.
That priest too, when he walks up and he just casually lifts this fucking shotgun and blows him
It's
away.
over for John.
God, that must have hurt. Yeah.
Oh,
Good thing
yeah.
he's got the Kevlar suit though. Saved him many times.
Still knocked him unconscious though, right? Because then when he woke up, he was being hung.
Yeah,
That,
Yeah.
that scene there too, real quick. Like his feet were chained to the ground, and his like, so he's being hung.
They're
but
gonna pop his
stretched.
head off,
That was
probably.
brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty ancient torture. We mentioned the DJ host there, and I saw something online that I think the director was mentioning that the Warriors, if you guys are familiar from that movie, is like a big inspiration for the film. And I totally like while reading that, I completely forgot about the DJ character in that movie, and I just love the way that it's basically the same situation where the DJ is like narrating kind of like where they are and like letting people know how to like find them so they can kill them. It's a very fun aspect when films do that. I feel like it's pretty few and far between.
Because it's a
Wow,
hard
I said
situation
that
to set
weird.
up, right? Like how
Yeah.
like how many times do you have a group of people, a guy being chased, and someone that can broadcast?
Yeah,
it has to be like a
exactly.
very specific circumstance.
It's a niche situation when that happens,
Yes.
but when it can happen, it's such a fun thing, and I feel like maybe I just have nostalgic for the Warriors. So any callback to that movie,
We'll put in a movie
I
one
like
day,
it.
Kirkland. We'll make that niche scenario happen.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much the end of my notes.
It's all covered. All right, Dilmas, final thoughts on John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah, great movie. My favorite in the quadrilogy. What is that word?
Quadrilogy.
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 What are you saying there, Kirkland?
Quad rod.
I got English term right
I got
once.
quad
did.
rods.
Who wants a quad rod?
Alrighty. It's also my favorite movie of the year so far. I've seen this, Ant-Man, and You People, I think. So it's not much competition at all, but easily a favorite there. But yeah, I'm excited to have a John Wick in Golden Geeks this year because it's come out in Golden Geeks years, but we never watched them, or it might not even have been genre eligible at the time. But I'm very happy to have those discussions. 11 months from now. But yeah, I love this movie. It's great. Shocked me, surprised me. Everyone should go see this thing. It was fantastic. Definitely a great theater experience, cinema, as it were.
Yeah, I'm like Dylan. I think I'm kind of surprised it passed the first one. I got to watch them back to back because I love the kind of the very personal, smaller scale of the first one because people know like some of the world stuff has gone too big for me. But again, I thought it was a good balance. Yeah, I would just repeat what I said. I just feel like it's everything as far as the franchise You know, you get the best story, I'd say. Like, this is not a big story, but the best story, the best cinematography, the best looking, the best sounding. Tear shout out with the score multiple times. Not just like soundtracks, but the score just kicking. Like, man, whatever they're doing here just sounds fantastic. So, yeah, no, it's number one for me, my favorite movie of the year, and I gonna drop the solid 10 out of 10. I haven't done that this year yet, so it's the first one in March, and I'm happy because, like I said, I feel like last year we were spoiled with good movies at this point, and this year it's been there's been some good ones, but like nothing great yet. Nothing of like, man, I'll revisit that. Like Dylan said, nothing that I'm like, oh, I'll be fighting hard for this in Golden Geeks. Where this is like, yeah, it's one that I will be watching again, and it's one that even though I probably will watch the whole franchise, I could see myself just putting this one on. Of like, I just want that huge epic action John Wick Chapter 4 scale of a film, and yeah, bravo. So yeah, I absolutely loved this movie.
I'm gonna ride the wave. I'm gonna drop a fat steamy 10 on this one. Yeah, I freaking love this movie so much, man. I was like pleasantly surprised too, because I feel like going into it, I was expecting a fantastic time, and like, you know, I'm not expecting a perfect movie, but I'm expecting a fantastic time, and I feel like that is a pretty high bar, and they completely surpassed it. Like, there's so many memorable scenes in this. I just while watching, I'm like, man, I really got to rewatch this movie closer to Golden Geeks, because I feel like sometimes Golden Geeks, you know, if a movie comes out early in the year, I might forget about certain scenes here and there to nominate, and there in my mind is just so many nominatable scenes, new made up word there, from this movie, and I can't wait for just more people to talk about it, because I feel like this will be one of those movies that, I don't know, just like in like years down the line, decades, it's just like, oh man, remember like those John Wick movie, that the certain sequence or whatever from 4. I feel like it'll really have that longevity effect to it. Just a classic action movie of the time. Yeah, I saw it with my buddy Tyler and my dad was making the whole John Wick comparisons to like the Crank series.
100%.
And I
yeah.
didn't even like think about it at the time. I'm like, oh yeah, it totally is that like modern day Crank, where it's just action.
better
like
made, better
yeah.
made.
Oh,
John
for
Wick
sure.
movies. Yeah.
Probably yeah, ages a little bit better too.
I'm still waiting for Crank 3, but I don't think I'm getting it.
But still, yeah. So I love it so much. I love Keanu too. We didn't talk
Yeah.
about him too much because he's the protagonist. That's pretty much what he does.
Yes, and
He's a
just
silent
dropping a lot of lines.
protagonist, pretty much.
Amen.
Yeah.
Jesus, I
I'm gonna
need a
kill you.
gun. Yeah, like you know what you're getting for Keanu, and like you go there for that raw chemistry, whatever he has, charisma.
Yeah, he's one of those actors though. I just love him as an individual. So I love to see him in just being successful and popping off here. And man, the way he holds the gun too, just so tactical.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's not the standard way to hold it in movies, but just it seems effective. He's a lot more agile around corners. Yeah.
There, Phil.
Oh man, this movie was just absolutely fantastic. I have easily placed this as my number one of the year. We'll see if it gets dethroned, but this is strong contendership right now. I love
Pope Exorcist still coming, Taylor. You gotta be
I
careful.
know.
Hey, we got D&D on Sunday too. Get ready for that.
Oh
That could
right,
potentially-
yes. There's a few contenders in that championship round, but yeah, this thing is in the running now, first place for sure. It's just, oh my god, I want to go see it again. Everything we've talked about tonight, I feel like I need to get immersed back into this world and just soak in so much that I missed. I feel like there's so much peripherally that was going on in this movie that I might have overlooked, not noticed that first time. Cinematically, like seeing this in theaters was a pure delight. I just think it was incredible. So from that, the score, the choreography, the action, yeah, 10 out of 10 for me, easily. I've updated my letterbox. I wrote the term, this is mint cinema. That's what I'm using there. So go and watch this movie again and again and again.
Doesn't roll off the tongue, but I'm happy you got something. You know, everyone needs a gimmick. Yeah. Thank you very much for checking out this Mint review. Let us know what you thought about John Wick Chapter 4 and the Discord, the YouTube, the videos, the Twitters, Facebooks, all that shebang. Gentlemen, this was a fun one. We almost went the length of oh, not really. We still got 30 minutes. It's still long. Definitely our longest John Wick review. All the other ones are around an hour and
Yeah.
stuff like that and everything.
I feel like it's been a while since all four of us equally just loved a movie on a review.
Very true. Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah,
think of
I'm
one.
trying
What would
to
have been
think
the
of
last one?
I'm trying to think.
Avatar. No.
I know, like no,
Like Batman, I guess.
Or
I, was
Batman.
gonna- I feel like a year.
love
I
it,
feel like a year
Kirkland.
ago last March was probably the Batman. Yeah, I feel like that
Yeah.
was probably it. Because, yeah. So there you go. So high praise from the GeekVerse crew.
It's been a while.
Big fun time. We've done our retro. We say goodbye to John Wick, and we'll be back when the Ballerina's out. It won't be boring.
See you.
Consequences.